Moms for Liberty is standing up for parental rights across America. But now we're under attack.
Moms for Liberty made news this week by being labeled as extremist and anti-government.
Radical groups like the SPLC are trying to silence us, but we're not in this fight alone. Countless leaders from across the country have stood up to defend us and our mission.
The Southern Poverty Law Center decided to target Moms for Liberty. Let me say, Moms for Liberty, they are phenomenal women. They are moms who are standing up for their kids.
They have fought for all of our children, and because they are effective, the Southern Poverty Law Center is trying to hurt them.
That's a deliberate attempt to destroy someone's life.
Moms for Liberty does amazing work. The parents movement in America is extremely important.
We are parents. We are parents that care about our kids. We are parents that want transparency in the classroom.
Moms for Liberty, you exhibit something that actually the CEOs of the biggest companies in this country do not, which is courage.
Thank you for standing with us to protect our children's future.
Hi, everyone. This is Scarlett Johnson with Moms for Liberty Unplugged. I wanted to open with that intro video because, first of all, I actually forgot that Charlie Kirk spoke in that video. And seeing him speak kind of now makes me feel like even more emotional. What he said is so true. The parental rights movement is so important, and the work that Moms for Liberty has done, the work that parents groups have done has made all of the difference. We have been shouting from the rooftops for years now about what's happening in our schools, the overt indoctrination. We said it's dangerous. We said don't ignore it. We said there'll be tragic consequences. In 2023 in Philadelphia, we had Moms for Liberty Summit. That was my first experience with a very radical strain of this whole trans insanity. I had dealt with protesters. I had dealt with hate and death threats. I had made many trips to my local police office with letters that have been emailed to my house, sent to my house, physically sent, emails, threats against my children. I've had to stop posting pictures of them. I can no longer do those cute Facebook posts celebrating their birthday. I can't, my son got married, couldn't post a single picture online. And that's the price you pay. You're a public figure, you put yourself out there. I'm definitely no Charlie Kirk, but just even what I do just puts a target. Now, I don't run around living in fear, and lots of times I thought I'm perfectly safe. And what happened on September 10th has definitely caused some pause, like how safe are we? I should put so this episode that I'm going to air right now, Failure Factories, Breaking Free from the Tyranny of Public Education, with guest my friend Corey DeAngelis. It's a great hour and a half, and I'm so glad that I get to air it right now. But it was recorded a week ago today. It was recorded at about 10 a.m. Central Time. We recorded for about an hour and 45 minutes. It wasn't long after when I was going to start the editing, just editing and getting it ready, posting it to StreamYard, that I received a text that Charlie Kirk had been shot. I was sitting here and I went immediately live, did a live, watching Megyn Kelly, watching some different shows, thinking that he's going to be okay. Like this, the worst can't possibly happen. But the worst did happen. I mean, he was shot right after he answered a question about the violence in this radical trans Marxist ideology. It wasn't difficult to deduce, even if it hadn't happened at that moment, the kind of person that would have such hate and bitterness in their heart that they could do such a heinous act to a guy that's not running for office, peaceful guy, a guy known for having conversations with the other side. 31 years old, young, married, 2 kids, his wife and daughter were there present. This sort of political assassination on a public figure just because he's a Christian, just because he has different beliefs, it's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. And as we learn more, and I'm sure as we continue to learn more, we are going to discover that at the root of all of this is an nefarious, evil, destructive ideology. It's one that I know well because I've been studying it for a long time, and I've learned from people like Corey, like James Lindsay, like Jordan Peterson, like so many people that we will have at our summit. And I've attended teacher trainings, I've attended professional development, I go to their seminars, I read their books, I know their philosophy. And this SPLC, some people shrug their shoulders. So what? So they call you a hate group. So they say that you're say you're a Nazi. They say that you're all of these terrible things. I hate even saying this. I'm not even going to repeat all the terrible things that they say. I'm not going to speak it out there because I'm tired of it. All the lies. I'm a white supremacist, yet I'm Puerto Rican. I'm anti-Semitic, yet I have my sister's Jewish. I have Jewish family members. My kids went to Jewish day school. It doesn't, none of that matters. Everything they say about you. I'm anti-woman. I'm a woman who wants to protect women's sports and women's private spaces. It's the inverse. It's the upside down. And when SPLC designated us and Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA as a hate group, and then we're labeled domestic terrorists in the Biden administration, were those designations, what they did has consequences. It gives permission for these crazy people to do unthinkable things. They feel justified. And as we've seen, a lot of these people that have been very comfortable saying terrible things, lies, calling people they don't agree with the worst names, labeling us the KKK, labeling us as domestic terrorists. What they have discovered now is that they can say those things, free speech, but there are consequences. There are consequences. So right now, I'm going to play. I'm going to play our recording, and Corey has a 10-minute intro where he wants to. He's right now in Australia. We were trying to meet up live, but the time changed and all of that. So he recorded something that's great. And if you look at his X feed just today, I'm going to scroll through a little bit before we start. I mean, the receipts, the things he's going after Randy Weingarten. He's driven. He's has a purpose. He's on a mission. So let a little bit of Well, I'm going to start with my breaking story today that has over 1 million views. There's a school board meeting that I'm watching for, and while this runs, I'm going to be answering comments, and I'm going to respond and watch everything, but I am looking at the school board meeting, and it's important because Charlie Kirk's hometown high school quietly removed his alumni plaque years ago. Following his tragic death, shocked residents are now demanding its restoration with an accurate representation of his accomplishments, rather than the watered-down version meant to appease woke school board members. So there's a petition going around right here. So you can see right here. I'll put this up.
The words that were said previously, that I'm shocked that Charlie Kirk's plaque would be removed from the wall of notable alumni. And it happened apparently in the middle of the night, as these things tend to happen quietly without anybody noticing. It's frankly shameful. Charlie Kirk tried to build bridges between people, and he did it using his intellect and reason and a quiet voice. And he should be honored for that. Whether you choose to believe what he said or not, or whether you choose to cross that bridge and join him or stay on your side, that's not the point. The point was he tried to peacefully build bridges between people. And I don't think it's appropriate that his plaque be removed. I think it should be restored. I think he should be honored. He is going to receive the Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor this country can bestow upon somebody. And frankly, I think an explanation would be owed if he wasn't restored to that wall of notable alumni. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
So there's a school board meeting tonight where this is going to be discussed. And I'm watching for it. It's important that we fight like this. I love that the residents, there were 2 others, called them out and said, not only should we restore his plaque, we should accurately describe his accomplishments. We want to have a ceremony honoring him. And we want you to stop denying Turning Point chapters in our high school. And there's a petition. And if you go to Moms for Liberty, you go to my account at Scarlett for Kids. If you go to the Moms for Liberty X account that's been reposted, you can see the petition. And I hope it goes viral, even more so, and people sign it. And so I'm monitoring the school board meeting. If I wasn't already doing this, I'd be airing that live, and who knows, I might air this next. I like to air school board meetings. I like to kind of expose that behind the scenes. It's a little impromptu, but I want to go back and show Corey what Corey's been doing a little bit, because it's important what's going on with Randy Weingarten. So she's written a book and it's been released. And of course, in it, this teachers union boss says parents that disagree with her are fascists. They're evil. We're going to show right now.
And those attacks are why I had to write this book. Why fascists?
Let's start it from the beginning.
And those attacks are why I had to write this book. Why fascists fear teachers. I warn about the dangers of these attacks on knowledge and pluralism, and I spell out the ways we can fight back. And it will be in bookstores in September. And
So
those
notice
attacks
protect
are why I had to write this book.
protect our kids. They're not our kids. They're not her kids. They're my kids. They're your kids. When there's a big red flag when they say, "Oh, our kids." I like Sarah Parshall Perry said this. This union boss who has no biological children of her own, wearing "Protect Our Kids" t-shirt, only wants to protect other people's kids from anything other than progressive homogeneity in government schools. While she plugs the book she got paid $600,000 a year to write on the taxpayer dime. Absolutely true. Great comment. Corey has spent the day exposing and going after these university professors, these educators. I mean, look at what they're saying here. Look at this. I'll dance on his grave. So this is where we are right now. And now more than ever, the work that we do is so important because there's awareness. There's awareness that something is deeply wrong in this education system. How does this happen? How does a kid who looked pretty normal suddenly become this murderer, making Charlie Kirk a martyr? I tell you, it starts in the K through 12 schools. It starts by what they're teaching kids and what they're not teaching kids. That's important as well. They're not teaching kids Judeo-Christian values. Western civilization had its faults, but a lot of good things too. They don't learn about the Constitution except for how evil our founding fathers were and how bad this country is. They're raised in these schools, they're surrounded with nihilism, overt sexualization. It can be subtle. It can be very subtle. It can be pretty extreme. And there could be schools where a lot of this isn't happening, but then again, you get to what isn't happening, which they aren't getting the kind of education that kids need so that when they go to college, they are the kind of critical thinkers that when the real assault happens, because then they go into a college campus and then, woo, you thought it was bad in K through 12, just wait. And these kids, they're like lambs to the slaughter. They're just, so that's why it's our job as parents to prepare our kids and to fight for them in K through 12 and fight when they're in college. You never stop fighting. Never stop fighting. About Charlie Kirk, I was driving my kids around today, picking them up from school, taking them to appointments. And news is on, and I heard the news, the very good news, that his wife, Erica Kirk, is going to be, she's going to take charge of Turning Point USA. She's going to be the CEO. And that's what he would have wanted. And I just can't stop thinking, like, a week ago today, she was with her husband. A week ago today, he was young, vibrant, alive. You know, she never would have imagined. And I think as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, thinks we just all like just empathize with her so much. Like, how shocking. They're so young. How awful. And how preventable. We can't allow our schools to become indoctrination centers. It's not just a tagline. It's not just a tagline. It's not just something that we say. We can't just let educators who work for communities, who teach our children to say these horrible, vile things with no consequence whatsoever. They have a sacred duty. They're paid with our tax dollars. They are responsible. They are held to a higher standard. It's pretty gross if anyone celebrates what happened to Charlie Kirk. It's pretty gross to say he deserved it, he had it coming. It's pretty gross to say, well, I didn't agree with him, but, I guess that went too far. You don't need to preface. You can just go straight to, that was bad and it went too far. Because that's what a human being would do. It's gross if anyone says it, but a teacher, an educator, if they're willing to say something like that on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, what do they say in the classroom when the door is shut? How do you think they present materials to our children? When they have to talk about social studies or history or science, I mean, frankly, they infuse gender ideology and radical Marxism and critical theory into everything. Home ec, math. If two mega, evil mega were in a room and they'll frame the questions, they'll do everything. And I've seen that. I have seen social study questions with my kids years ago, where every single question made Donald Trump and anyone who supported him look like an evil, horrible person. And I had to call up and put what is this? What's this garbage? That was my first exposure. Look at assignments. Then started to go through their Google Chromebook to see the materials that they were given when they're going to write a story. And nothing reflected my view. And if it was talked about the way that I view things, a more conservative, at that time, even more libertarian, I've gotten a little bit more conservative with all of this. Never was it framed in any sort of sympathetic way. It was always that I'm the bad guy. Always. Capitalism, bad. Communism, good. Heart's in the right place. Yeah, Mao Zedong murdered, slaughtered 100 million people, but his heart was in the right place. He was trying to do good. I mean, when a kid walked into my house wearing a Che Guevara hat, and I was like, what is that on your head? And he's like, oh yeah, he's cool. And I was like, you have to leave my house. That hat is out. And he laughed. He thought I was joking. And I was like, I'm not joking. I don't glorify vicious communists in my house. So you're going to have to leave with that hat. And he never did it again. That's how you have to be. And it was just, matter of fact, no. When my kids' friends have always known where I stand. I will talk to them about this whole, like, we shouldn't discuss politics and religion. If you don't discuss it, who's going to discuss it with your kids? Guess who it is? Crazy, wacky teacher that said, I'm going to dance on the grave. That's who will discuss it with your kids. That's who will be the one that puts the imprint that you should have put. There are a lot of questions about the way we educate our kids. I think a lot of, why do they have to be there so long? Why do they have to be there all day? Why do we have to put up with this? Why does school for high school kids start at 6:30 in the morning? That's not healthy for them. Why are all these things that we just accept, like this is the way it has to be? It doesn't have to be this way if we just decide we're not going to take it anymore. And we don't have to give our kids cell phones the minute they want it. We don't have to bring them up with iPads. And you know what? I'm pointing the finger at myself because, you know, sometimes it's easier to just let your younger kids just go on an iPad and be quiet because you have to work. And so we like changes during COVID, like changes have to be made. Get some, you might have to get like several different several different lock boxes to put the phones away at night. Our kids can't just play video games all day. You know, you could say, I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and I take my kids to church. Well, as we saw, kids raised with conservative parents can be influenced somewhere else. It sucks when your kids say they hate you, but if you have a teenager and they don't say I hate you at least once a week, then you're doing something very, very wrong. We love our kids, and you get to be friends with them when they're 27, but not when they're 17. You got to be the parent, you got to be strong. And they want that. They need it. Especially when they know how much you love them, and you love on them, and you tell them you love them, and you have family dinner, and you eventually, and it's already happened with me, they get old enough to say, Mom, you're right. And I'm so glad that you raised me the way that you did. And they will say that. Train up a child the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. We're going to learn more about Tyler Robinson. We're already learning some stuff. But I don't need to put my hand into a fire to know that it burns. And I don't need to cut myself to know that that's painful and I'll bleed. And I don't need to know the details right now. I know there's an insidious ideology, a cancer, and Tyler got infected. It's an extreme case. But even in a mild case, kids like him, they can just end up depressed, withdrawn. They won't get married. They won't have kids. Maybe they take their own life. They lose hope. That's no way to live. That's no way to raise kids. And the demons that are spreading this crap, they need to be called out and stopped. Maybe you're not a Christian, but Jesus said, anyone who harms a child, better for him to cast a rope around his ankle and throw himself into the water with a rock. I'll get the scripture, but you know what I mean. Harming children is just such a terrible sin, a terrible thing. hurting children, sexualizing children, demanding that children validate your lifestyle, refusing to have your own children, and knowing that that means your ideas don't reproduce, so you go after ours. You devour them. It's not fair. It's not right. And I am so grateful that there are so many parents and so many people scouring right now, looking. Say, if you are teaching children and you are saying these things, we're going to call you out. And if you're a board member and you are doing something like they're doing in Charlie's hometown in his high school, where they're going to take down his alumni plaque and then throw a few words in a paper and say he was a really great kid, and never mention his accomplishments, that he is about to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a civilian. Don't mention that. Don't mention that he created one of the largest, if not the largest, grassroots political organizations in the country. Don't mention that. Don't mention how he was taken from us. Don't mention who and why, because it disrupts your comfort zone, because it takes away the ability for you to say that Turning Point USA and Moms for Liberty, they're the real domestic terrorists. No. Your lies have been exposed. And not even Jimmy Kimmel can cover them up for you anymore. There will be a reckoning. There will be a reckoning. And a reckoning is not revenge. A reckoning is a righteous accountability. If you've seen Tombstone, Doc Holliday, it's not revenge, it's a reckoning. There will be a reckoning. And we mourn, then there's resolve. And I know immediately, a week ago today, I thought I honestly contemplated quitting. I have a nice life. I have a great husband and I have wonderful children. I don't need to be doing this. I don't make any money from it at all. Why continue to keep doing this? But then I started listening to Charlie Kirk. I started listening every post, every video, and I knew that could not stop, because then they win. So like Megyn Kelly said, they can't silence us all. And I've been to a few vigils in Wisconsin for Charlie Kirk, and I've never seen anything like it. So many young people, and so many young people coming up to me, Scarlett, I follow you. I watch your live streams. I follow you. I was just blown away. Like, really? Like, these younger kids are listening to things I have to say? And they're so impressive. And I think this is a turning point. I think this is a turning point. But we have to be like Charlie. We have to keep encouraging debate with honest brokers, with people that don't think like us, that like, let's just talk. We have to. People have to hear what we have to say. We can't let others write our story. We can't let these crazy people just form the opinions. We have to share. We've got to be the emissaries, the ambassadors for what we believe in. You can't hide your light under a bushel anymore. Charlie Kirk felt like what he was doing and the God he served and the family he loved and the country he loved were worth living for, worth fighting for, worth dying for. And if you care about him, I think that you'll care about what's happening and what's happening in schools and help us. And now I am going to bring up Corey, and he's going to share a few words.
We recorded the original episode right before the tragedy that unfolded. And so I'd like to give a few thoughts before we release the episode. And some of the first things on my mind is that when at a time where we're supposed to cool things off, settle down, tone down the rhetoric, you have people who can't read the room, who just haven't learned a dang thing about what just unfolded. Where you have Randi Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, launched her book on Tuesday called, quote, "Why Fascists Fear Teachers." And in the first page, on the first line, the fourth and fifth word is Adolf Hitler, where she's invoking Hitler and the horrible things that he did, and putting that into her book at a time where the temperature needs to be lowered. And so you have the unions have pushed this rhetoric for a long time. They're ripping American society apart, which is a shame. And it's ironic because the public school system is supposed to be meant for a place to have a more functioning democracy. That's what the defenders of the status quo will tell you, that you need public schools and public education to have people get along with one another. Well, you're seeing with this divisive rhetoric, this Marxist ideology through critical race theory and otherwise, they've taught people to hate their country. And if you look at the NEA, the largest teachers union in the country, they put out a resolution in Portland, Oregon at their annual convention this past summer, and they passed it, and it dedicates thousands of dollars to label President Trump as a fascist. They ended up misspelling the word fascism in their own resolution to declare our duly elected president of the United States a fascist. But you got to look at this and say, this rhetoric is causing the fabric of our country to be ripped at the seams. And they don't seem to have any desire whatsoever to reverse course. I just saw a post from the Massachusetts Teachers Association the other day where they were telling members that, they need to watch out what they're posting online because extremists might use it against them. Instead of saying, well, maybe we should calm down and not celebrate the death of our political opponents. Instead of doing that, they're saying, oh, you better watch out, better cover yourself so that you don't get fired. I mean, they're just protecting themselves, protecting their members, protecting the worst people in society, because that's what unions do. They protect the lowest common denominator. And so we've seen a lot of firings, and if not firings, people being placed on administrative leave and what have you, that are hired and employed by school districts, a lot of teachers. And so, you got to ask yourself too, why are so many people in the teaching in positions of authority over young, impressionable minds? Why are they getting caught up in all of this division and celebrating their political opponents. And I think it's because, it's hard. I think it starts from the top and trickles down from union bosses like Randy Weingarten, who are pushing this division on repeat every single day. I mean, just on Labor Day, Randy Weingarten held a rally in Chicago, and there she called President Trump a pharaoh. She even said that he's not just any pharaoh, he's worse than all the pharaohs that ever existed throughout history. I mean, if that's not unhinged rhetoric, turning it up to volume 11, I don't know what is. If that's not free advertising for homeschooling, I don't know what is. You got to get your kids out of these institutions, employed by people and controlled by people who literally celebrate the death of people who agree with you politically. Republicans should not feel safe sending their kids to a lot of these institutions. So these teachers do need to be fired. I mean, they cannot continue to be trusted around thousands of students in their schools each day. They just can't. And a lot of people are trying to say, oh, well, look, this is cancel culture. No, it's accountability culture. They're saying that, oh, this is an infringement of their free speech rights. You have free speech. You're not being thrown in jail for posting something on social media. But there's also this thing called freedom of association, and employers, the school districts, have the ability to determine who they're going to have around children each day. So you can say what you want, right? But you cannot avoid all form of accountability whatsoever. And there are certain people who we should not trust with young children, shaping the minds of millions of kids throughout the United States, that can shape the direction of this country, and that could either lead to a more stable, tolerant society, or one that has people ripping each other apart. And that's kind of my quick thoughts here. There are too many educators engaging in this unhinged rhetoric, celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I will say Charlie Kirk was a legend in the conservative movement. And it's not just because he had a huge following. It's because he gained that following for a reason. And it's because he was the best at reaching across the aisle and disagreeing with people, and doing it in a kind way, in a compassionate way. He was a man of Jesus Christ. He's with our Lord and Savior right now. And he was the top echelon of what free and open debate is supposed to look like. He went on college campuses. These are places that are supposed to be meant for free expression, for open dialogue, for talking to people who disagree with you and coming to a conclusion. That is free and open debate. That's how we move our society forward. And so for this tragedy to occur on a college campus makes it that much more disgusting and just a huge tragedy. I mean, it's but the reality is that these institutions of higher education have not really been fostering free and open debate in too many of these universities. I'd say the vast majority of them have been more about pushing a left-wing ideology. And so this should be a call to action for universities to foster more free and open debate in a peaceful way within the classroom. It shouldn't need to be these huge events where you have thousands of people. The universities should not have needed Charlie Kirk to go there and have the opposite opinion being expressed on campus. That should already be part of the culture of the schools. So I have much more to say. I'm actually in Australia right now, and I knew I needed to say something before we got this episode out with Moms for Liberty. And I'm thankful for all the work that Moms for Liberty is doing. We need to create more of a Teachers for Liberty with Moms for Liberty locking arms with teachers who are not engaging in this hateful rhetoric that we've seen on social media lately. We need teachers who are brave, courageous, who stand for what is right, and who can be entrusted with young children to teach them the basics, to not teach them divisive rhetoric and ideology. And so I'm honored to join this podcast with Moms for Liberty, with Scarlett. They're doing great work, and it is a tough time in America right now. It's a dark time, and we need to call people out who are trying to divide the country even further. So thank you so much, Scarlett, for having me. Thanks, Moms for Liberty, for doing the right thing, and being leaders in this fight for education freedom.
Thank you, Corey. That was great. That was great. Sorry. That was great. Thank you, Corey. That was really. And he's like, honestly, when you watch, which I'll play in a minute, he's a great speaker. But I did want to say, I'm going to read the words that my friend sent me today. The work we are called to do at Moms for Liberty is the same work that Charlie Kirk and our friends at Turning Point USA have poured their lives into for more than a decade. We have always been united in this purpose and mission to preserve America for future generations. And I have had the pleasure to work with Turning Point very closely here in Wisconsin, which was a battleground state in 2024. Charlie Kirk came here on multiple occasions personally. Turning Point was a huge presence. And when I would do work with Moms for Liberty, when I did work on my own, when I was a surrogate for the Trump campaign traveling the state, I was always surrounded by my friends in America First. I was surrounded by state party, national party, and of course, Turning Point everywhere. There was always young, eager, bright, energetic young people who they were knocking doors like crazy, and we did events together, and it was a great experience, and could not have won Wisconsin without Turning Point. And Charlie was in Wisconsin and was a big presence at the state convention, which was held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2024. Every day I was the delegate. So I was there the whole time and walking around out, the perimeter was very secure, especially after the assassination attempt on our president. It had to be very, very secure. But he would be out in his tent on the street, doing his show, talking to people, just doing his thing in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. And that's how he walked around the convention, like just about every day, except for when he spoke. In a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, relatable. I got to meet him and talk to him a couple times. He was at the inauguration. I was there. But then after the convention, the hard work, July to November, a lot of events brought in. Don Jr. was in Madison. When one of my kids, my first child was in college, I went to a Turning Point event where he had it on the college campus. And I remember we go into the event and fire alarms go off right as Charlie's taking the stage. And he's like, sit down, you don't have to go anywhere. This happens all the time. It's just the crazy lefties. Like, they'll pull the fire alarm, they'll do whatever they can to stop us from speaking, but I'm not going to stop speaking. So if there's one person in this room, I'll keep talking. And I was so impressed right there. And we stayed, and it turned out it was a hoax. But think about that. This had to be 10 years ago. over 10 years or maybe, that it was just so common that the stifling of free speech, pull fire alarms, pull stunts, bomb threats, whatever they could do, because God forbid you let a peaceful man talk common sense. Can't have that happen, because you know what? When these kids hear truth versus all the lies, they have a change of heart. They start to think, hey, and if there's one thing a radical leftist doesn't want, it's an 18-year-old thinking, contemplating, or a 21-year-old thinking, I'm not happy. Everything I'm being told doesn't feel right. I wonder if there's another way. And there is. Charlie embodied the value of joyful warrior every day. And he was killed doing the very things that we hold dear: talking, engaging, showing kindness, empathy, love, but not toxic empathy. Never sacrificing his values, always inquisitive, ready to hear another opinion, ready to change, ready, if it's a good enough argument, maybe I'll change my mind. Though rarely he did, but you know what? You have to always think, I want to hear. You have to listen. And that's why his loss is so difficult. The more that I hear, I don't know about any of you, the more I hear about him, the more I realize he was a greater man than I even knew. And he was very pivotal in the Trump administration and in a lot of things. And to Erica, these are hard times, but God bless you. You're embarking on a whole different journey. God bless you. We're praying for you, and you can do it. You can do it. Sorrow lasts through the night, but joy cometh in the morning. And the loss will never leave you, but the immense grief will get a little easier over long time. The purpose that you have now, raising your kids and now running this organization, God will be with you. And I don't know Erica at all, but from what I see, she will lean into God, into Jesus, into her faith, into her family and friends, and she will be successful. And I don't think these radical leftists are going to know what hit them. I think they've awakened a sleeping giantess in Erica, and she's going to do phenomenal things. Praying for her. This weekend's going to be extremely difficult. I can't imagine what she's going through. And it's a powerful thing that we all can feel so much for people we hardly knew, but felt like we knew. And one of the last podcasts that I was on that wasn't my own was the Charlie Kirk show, where I was supposed to go on for a very short segment about Westosha, and I'm going to play that next week and talk with the attorneys in that case. And when I started to talk about what was happening in this case, Charlie had been so intrigued, he had me stay on for another segment and really talked for over 20 minutes. And he said this was probably one of the worst cases he had heard as far as what was going on with the gender madness in bathrooms. And it was something in Wisconsin. And that he platformed me, Moms for Liberty, the parents, the kids at that moment was so wonderful, because then they were able to get representation, and the school board was scared out of their mind that Charlie Kirk was talking about them. And sunlight is the best disinfectant. So he did things like that every day, where he exposed stories and gave people hope. And in situations where it could be hopeless, he used his influence for good. And I think, and I will always appreciate that. Now I'm going to air the episode with Corey DeAngelis. I always forget to take that thing off. Failure factories breaking free from the tyranny of public education. Now that we've spent some time, over longer than I thought, over an hour talking about Charlie and what's happening in education, maybe this will resonate with you more. Think about the fact that a small minority in the vast scheme of things, but overrepresented in that minority, are K through 12 teachers that took to social media to celebrate what happened to him. So think about that. Think about the teachers' unions. Think about the fact that teachers' unions said, the NEA said, and I quote, and I'm going to get the exact quote right. They said, they'd put it in their charter that it was their mission. It was their mission to take down Donald Trump and MAGA and expose conservatives for who they really are to young children. That was in their charter. That was their whole July conference, teachers' unions, the NEA. Guess what? The NEA is the only public sector union that has a charter with Congress. They spend a fortune. All their dues fund the Democrat Party. Corey's going to tell you more about this. He can tell you more about it in a better way than I can. So let's just watch. Hi, everyone. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and this is Moms for Liberty Unplugged, Unafraid, Uncensored, and Unwoke. And I want to start today, not just as the host and not just as now the director of social media for Moms for Liberty, but as a mom. Like many of you, I was blindsided during COVID, and I thought school was just school. I volunteered all the time. I was room mom. I worked in the lunchroom. I was on the playground, all of those things. And I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. And I didn't really understand what was happening with the curriculum. You know, I had a few gut checks where I thought, oh, that doesn't seem right. But I trusted the system. And then suddenly enter COVID, and schools were closed while daycares stayed open. And my children were treated like a virus, not as precious human beings. And in my own community, even my high school was closed, but that same school was used as a daycare center. So the same place that was just unsafe for my children to attend, my high school age children to attend for their education, was perfectly fine as a daycare drop-off site all day where they could engage in remote learning. So things just didn't make sense. And that was the beginning of an awakening for me, where parents like me realized we had to stand up and fight, and we had to do it for our kids. And that brings me to today's guest, Corey DeAngelis. He has been on the front lines of this battle, exposing the hypocrisy of teachers' unions and fighting for real education freedom. He's been fearless in calling out Randy Weingarten and other union bosses that put politics ahead of kids. And I first started to follow Corey when he broke stories like what happened in Sacramento, which was much like my experience, where a private school looked around and realized that all the schools were closed, but if you were daycare, you could stay open. And you exposed how a school had to train their teachers and go through the whole thing to become daycares just to stay open. And you exposed Chicago, where union bosses shut down classrooms, but then they vacationed in my native land of Puerto Rico. So they were on the beaches of Puerto Rico while our kids were locked in their rooms, suffering from anxiety, depression, and going through just a terrible time. And if you had children during that time like I did, you know how bad it was.
And of course, they tweeted out that it was racist to reopen schools at the time as well, and then deleted that post.
Yeah, I mean, the effect that these closures had on the most vulnerable, those folks who they claim to care about the most, it was just absolutely devastating. And you know that as well. I'm going to read through your CV. It's a little bit long, so I'm going to go fast because you have a tremendous amount of experience. That you are a senior fellow at the American Culture Project, a visiting fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research. You've been labeled the school choice evangelist and called the most effective school choice advocate since Milton Friedman. You are frequently on Fox News, on Newsmax. You were just on the Will Cain show. I watched you on Jordan Peterson's podcast just this morning. You write articles for the Wall Street Journal and Newsmax and a lot of publications. You are the executive director at the Educational Freedom Institute and just a whole bunch of other things. You have a PhD in education policy, so you're a doctor.
More like a Jill Biden doctor, not a real one.
Jill Biden. Yes, you're not going to insist that I call you Dr. Corey. Yes, doctor. You are the best-selling author of a book that I love, The Parent Revolution, Rescuing Your Kids from the Radicals Ruining Our Schools, which President Trump called a great guide to help moms and dads take back control of their children's education from the radical Marxists ruining our schools. And that sounds exactly like something President Trump would say. He just calls it like it is. So we're going to talk about what went wrong, how parents are taking back control, and why the revolution in education is just beginning. So welcome, Corey. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Scarlett, thanks for having me.
So I have so many questions. I've written them out. So I'm going to start with, you've given a lot of statistics, and I want to make it clear to everyone who listens, because I know them, but I'm always surprised by them. Mm-hmm. How much of a state's budget is spent on education? What is the real cost that we're spending on average for students? And when you consider the recent NAEP score released yesterday, what are we getting for what we're spending?
We spend like half of the state budgets on what we call education, but it's more like indoctrination or schooling. And it's an international embarrassment how we do on standardized test scores. We're doing horribly, but we spend more than everybody else by a lot. We spend about $20,000 per student per year in our government school system in America. And that amount has increased by about 170% after adjusting for inflation since 1970. Have the outcomes gotten 170% better? No, they've gotten worse, as we've seen from the nation's report card. And in places like Chicago, where they're too busy calling it racist to reopen schools, where they have a teachers union boss out there, Stacey Davis Gates, who thinks that she owns your children. Look at her Twitter bio. I'm not even taking that out of context. She says it out loud. She called school choice racist a couple of years ago. And we just found out she's sending her own kid to a private school. So school choice for me, but not for the hypocrisy on full display. She knows this, the unionized schools that she's in charge of, they're failure factories. They are violent institutions. They are not helping kids. They're hurting them. And she wants to trap other people in those places with no recourse, with no ability to take your hard-earned tax dollars that's meant for your children's education somewhere else, to a private school that's aligned with your values. They have 55 public schools with not a single kid, zero, proficient in math.
Oh my.
Now, I mean, that is a disaster. If the kids truly did belong to the public school system, like Stacey Davis Gates claims, CPS would come and take them away if she was the actual parent. It is a horrible situation, and school choice would help here. But the spending amount, it's basically the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Our Nation's Report Card scores came out showing us just 1 in 5 kids proficient in math nationwide. I mean, this is the lowest number on these reports since they first started over 2 decades ago. I mean, what a freaking embarrassment. And it's because the teachers unions, well, one, they fought to keep the schools closed as long as possible in 2020. They held children's education hostage. Why? Because they knew they could use those school closures as leverage to ask for even more money from Congress. And they got it. They got $190 billion in so-called COVID relief starting in March of 2020. And they didn't use it for safely reopening the schools. If anything, the school districts that had more money were less likely to open because those were the same places that were also more influenced by teachers' union control. So the unions need to be defanged. We need to dismantle the teachers' unions once and for all. And I'm not talking about teachers. There's a lot of great conservative, independent teachers, rational Democrats even, who aren't in line with what Randy Weingarten and Becky Pringle are fighting for. You look at the resolutions they passed with their delegates this past summer. In Portland, Oregon, the NEA, for example, the National Education Association, the largest teachers union in the country, they passed all these resolutions that had everything to do with politics, nothing to do with education. And they even elevated as their teacher of the year out of 3 million members. They picked one person, and guess what that person did? She let the mask slip at their annual convention during her allotted time for her speech. And she said that her job as a teacher, of all things, was, quote unquote, deeply political and always had been. She said the quiet part out loud. And if that's not free advertising for homeschooling and school choice, I don't know what is. You need to pull your kids from these institutions that are controlled by the unions so that you can raise them with your values, not this far left radical agenda. And Vodi Bakum said it best. We cannot continue to send our children to Caesar for their education and be surprised when they come home as Romans. The good news is, well, parents are not surprised anymore. They're starting to figure it out because of groups like Moms for Liberty and others championing parental rights and education all across the country. But because teachers can leave their unions now as well, we can starve the beast. We can dismantle it from the inside. And I saw a recent survey from Education Week showing that, if anything, only 41% of teachers identify as Democrats, most of them independents and the rest conservatives. But if you're one of the 59% who don't identify as a Democrat, why in the world would you continue to give your hard-earned paycheck to a union that gives 99% of their contributions politically to the Democrat Party? The teachers union is nothing more at this point than a money laundering operation for the Democrats. In fact, Becky Pringle, the NEA boss, is still an at-large member of the DNC. Randy Weingarten, she was so radical left, she even got forced out of the DNC, it appears, after 23 years. Randy Weingarten is no longer an at-large member of the Democratic National Committee because she's such a socialist that I think she's too far left for the DNC. If she's too far left for the Democrats, how in the world is she in a position controlling the classrooms of our children and injecting politics every single day into those classrooms? She also just announced at her annual convention in DC this year that she's partnering with the World Economic Forum, of all things, to create curriculum nationwide. Just what we needed. The globalist controlling the curriculum, not just in blue states, but red states too. If you thought Common Core was a bad idea and nationalizing the curriculum, well, Randy Weingarten just said, hold my beer. We're going to let the globalists control your child's brain and mold the mind of our future American citizenry. This, even if you don't have kids, and by the way, the radical left has figured out they don't have to have their own kids anymore. They can infiltrate the government-run school system, churn out Democrat foot soldiers, and then you end up with a situation like New York City's in right now, with the #1 contender in the mayoral race being an out-and-out socialist, Zohran Mamdani, a guy who went to private school himself and doesn't want that opportunity for others. More hypocrisy on the school choice front. But what do you expect if you send millions of kids to a school system for 13 years, for 7 hours a day, and they're getting the force-fed this indoctrination in government institutions to love big government as the solution to all their problems? Of course, they're going to go out into the world and vote for people like Zohran Mamdani. And so the way that you heal this problem in our country and stop the socialist drift is you need to take the schools back. Yes, you can fight for the school boards, but you also need to empower parents, give them an escape valve. If your kid's being brainwashed, hell no, you should not be forced. It's essentially compelled government speech that we have in the public school system today if you do not have an exit option. So school choice, it provides competition. Yes, it improves the public schools, but more importantly, it gives parents the right to take their kids' money somewhere else. And so maybe then, instead of school boards telling Moms for Liberty members that they're domestic terrorists or cutting off their mics, maybe they'll listen to you. Maybe they'll have an incentive to say, hey, if you can spend the money somewhere else, you hit them where it hurts, they'll start to scratch their head a little bit and change their tune and do a better job and stop focusing on gender ideology, focus more on the ABCs as opposed to the LGBTs. And maybe our test scores would get a little better if they're actually focusing on academics as opposed to activism. But one thing I do want to tell teachers, we're on your side too. We have Moms for Liberty. We need Teachers for Liberty as well. And I know there are Moms for Liberty members who are teachers as well. But there's also a group called Teacher Freedom Alliance, where teachers are leaving the public school unions, defunding them by taking their union dues, putting it in their pocket, and they're getting the free liability insurance from the Teacher Freedom Alliance. So why in the world would you give your money to the Democrat politicians you oppose as a teacher? There's no excuse anymore. A lot of teachers, one, they might not have known they could do this, and two, they might have thought, I've heard from them, they go in to sign the contract and they're told that, well, if you don't sign this right now and you don't opt in to pay us union dues every year, you're going to get sued. You need us. And so they play this whole gaslighting games in those kind of employment conversations. And the teachers get kind of, they're just entering a new job, right? They just want to do right by the kids. They just want to get teaching. They just want to get started with their job. So they sign the paperwork, not knowing that they have other options. Of course, the union bosses and the districts aren't going to tell them about those options, but I'm telling you now, you can opt out, keep your money. That's like on average $1,000 a year. It's not going to make you rich or anything, but it's going to make you better off than you were before. And at the end of the day, Scarlett, you're in Wisconsin. There's actually a study that just came out by Barbara Biazzi. She's at Yale. I think she's not ideologically aligned with me. I think we've actually gotten into an argument on X before, back when it was Twitter. But she just released a study, an academic one at the National Bureau for Economic Research, finding that Act 10 in Wisconsin, which weakened the teachers' unions, had a couple of very interesting impacts. One, they found that it lowered union dues. Well, of course that's going to happen. You lower the power of the unions, they're going to get less money. And when they get less money, they also found that Democrat politicians fared worse during the election. So of course, if you're spending less money on Democrat campaigns through the union dues, Republicans are going to be better off winning elections. They'll have a better chance of getting a fair shake. Of course, when you are defunding the arm of the Democrat Party known as the teachers union, of course that's going to happen. But also test scores improved. They also found that teachers weren't worse off in terms of salary. So the teachers were fine. The sky didn't fall. The test scores went up because what do unions do? They fight against any accountability. They fight against transparency. They fight to protect the lowest common denominator in the system. They fight to protect sexual abusers that are having problems. And by the way, we have a sexual abuse epidemic in the public school system today. There was a 2004 report released by the Department of Education. It's outdated, but there is a new one finding the same thing. A peer-reviewed study from 2023. They both found separately that about 1 in 10 children in America going through the school system will experience sexual misconduct in the school system by the educators themselves by the time that they graduate from high school. That is a huge problem. And states like where I live in Texas, we're taking steps in the right direction to kind of try to help solve this issue. There's no silver bullet, obviously. The abusers go where their victims are. The predators go where the prey is. That doesn't mean all teachers are bad. There's a lot of great teachers, but you're just going to be more likely to have these problems in the school system than in the general public with other professions. And in Texas, Mitch Little, a Republican in the House, introduced and passed a bill, even got some Democrat support, to abolish immunity for public schools and their employees in sex abuse cases. Governor Abbott signed it this year, which really raises the question, Scarlett. I know you're already going to ask me, why in the world did they have immunity in the first place? I mean, that's the question parents should be asking, and they should be asking in their state, are there problems like this that are ingrained into the system that make it so that abusers can get off basically free in the school system? And they even have a concept that is well known in the literature called passing the trash. And so a lot of the times these abusers will lose their job in one school district and they'll sweep it under the rug. School districts do not want a PR disaster. So what they do is they try to keep it under the rug, be silent about it, fire them, or sometimes the teachers will resign before there's an investigation because they see the writing on the wall. Then they'll go work for another school district where they can have problems with the other victims as well in other schools. And sometimes, there's rules where that information is not passed on to the new district, and just a total disaster. And so the problems go beyond test scores, Scarlett. It goes beyond even physical violence. That FBI report that just came out showing 1.3 million crimes in public schools across America. One, it was an undercount because only half of the law enforcement agencies in this country reported data up to the FBI, according to their own report. It included over 500,000 physical assaults, but it also included over 50,000 sex offenses that were reported to the FBI in schools. And so you see these 0% proficiency rates in the schools with math and reading. That is just the tip of the iceberg. It's a lot worse than that. Parents want their kids in a safe place. They don't want them to be abused, but we're not getting that in the public schools. And I'm not going to say that never happens with, private schools, but at least if you know that there's a problem and you know that there's policies that protect abusers, you can vote with your feet and go somewhere else. So there's no silver bullet with these issues, but I would say that the private sector, at least, there's some form of accountability from the bottom up. You being able to vote with your feet and say, to hell with this, I'm going to protect my kid and I'm going to take them to a safe place. And so that could be a private school, could be a micro school, could even be homeschool. If you don't trust other people with your children, try to figure out homeschool. There's even homeschool co-ops now. Yes. And the micro school thing is just really cool, Scarlett, because you can get the benefits of homeschooling in that it's more one-on-one with 10 students as opposed to, these factory model schools with 5,000 kids or whatever the number might be in some places. They don't get lost in the system, and the teachers can make more money too, because, if you think about it, we spend $20,000 a kid. If that money follows the student, you have 12 kids in a micro school. That's $240,000 in revenues. The teachers they're getting screwed by the system too. And so they should fight for school choice as well, because their employer's a monopolist, has no incentive to spend money wisely. It doesn't go to teacher salaries. They throw more money at the superintendents, the administrative bloat. They just want more people in the system, not necessarily, they don't want to reward good teachers.
Yeah, they put the money into administrators, into DEI, into buildings. It is a real feather in the cap of a superintendent if he can pass a referendum and get building improvements, build more buildings, while there is a decline in children being born in America, and there's declines in all school districts, pretty much across the board, across the country. I know that's in Wisconsin.
Yep.
They are still increasing the spending, building new buildings. They refuse to
hire
sell
more people.
old buildings. Yeah, they won't sell old buildings. They put contingencies so that old buildings cannot be sold to private schools or charter schools. They just sit there because they don't want the competition. There are so many issues. I have friends that have been trying to open a classical school, and every building that they potentially could buy, they couldn't buy because of basically non-competes that are put in by public education. And I'm going to just read a few of these when we talk about the NAEP scores, just a few of the shocking discoveries. 22% of students in America are proficient in math. It's the lowest in 20 years. 35% proficient in reading, the lowest in 30 years. So this isn't just a COVID phenomenon. Yes, it was exacerbated by what happened, but this has been happening for a while. 31% proficient in 8th grade science. Half of our seniors are below basic in math and reading, and only 1 in 3 high school graduates are ready for college. The worst report card in 30 years, since 1969, since we've started to measure these things. COVID only exacerbated an already huge problem. So those are those statistics, and yet we are spending more. Like you said right at the beginning, we 50% of any of your property taxes of your state budget go to fund education. We're spending on average $28,000 a kid. Places like Chicago, it's $30,000 a kid, and with no end in sight. In Milwaukee, where we spend, I believe I had the statistic, I believe we spend about $22,000 per kid. We have got Wisconsin ranked bottom, the absolute last in educating Black kids. Yet we spend the most in Milwaukee, and their solutions, we need more money. We're not getting enough money. That's all they ever say. And they now the parents, whether Democrat, Republican, the parents want school choice. The parents, there is a waiting list. There's a lot to get into our school choice program. There are waiting lists. It's very hard, but organizations like WILL, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, try to help School Choice Wisconsin. Wisconsin is, as you know, you did your research on this, I think some of your thesis research on Milwaukee, the voucher program. But since it is very difficult to increase the income threshold so more families could participate. They make it so hard on any schools that do participate in the choice program.
Yeah, it's too regulated.
Yeah, my child attends one. It's a great school, but they get flagged by the Wisconsin Department of Instruction regularly. So there's a lot of things that need to happen. And on top of it, and I'll let you talk, our governor just rejected and said he will not opt in to receive the funding that parents so desperately want for voucher programs for charter schools. I'm not shocked by it, but I was hoping that, like other Democrat governors, Governor Tony Evers would see the writing on the wall and care more about kids than he does politics. But he's beholden to teachers' unions.
Yeah, what a piece of crap. I mean, this is the biggest no-brainer decision for even Democrats at this point. This is free money, basically. There's no such thing as free, but it doesn't touch a cent of local funding in Wisconsin schools. It would give parents additional money. You could even use it. You could be a public school student and use the money for tutoring services this benefits public and private school students. It's federal dollars. And guess what? By the way, as a Texan resident, I'm kind of, if I was solely interested in Texas residents and not Wisconsin residents, I would thank Tony Evers for subsidizing kids in Texas to have scholarships to go to private schools while using donations from Wisconsin. Because what a lot of people don't know is that in this bill, the governors do have the chance to opt in, but that's only on the receiving end of the scholarships. Every American, this is a federal program, a federal tax credit. Everyone can donate to a scholarship granting organization, whatever state that you're in, regardless of whatever Tony Evers says. So you create this situation where Democrat governors, if they don't opt in, they're shooting themselves in the foot by allowing their own constituents to give money to scholarships in red states. And so I hope at some point, maybe Tony didn't see the writing on the wall yet, but at some point it becomes such a political disaster to reject the benefit for your constituents that even Democrats say, you know what, maybe I'll opt in too. It reminds me of the 21 drinking age. This is a state-by-state decision, but it's tied to federal highway funding. So every state decides that they're going to have a drinking age of 21. I'm not, arguing whether that should be the age or not, or whether that's a good way to set up the system, but we have a similar situation of incentives with the school choice program where, maybe even if they don't understand it at this point, at some, kind of crossroads, when enough Democrat governors start to see what's going on here, they say, well, maybe I want my constituents to benefit too. We're not taking any local or even state level education funding. It is just federal donations that can be used as scholarships. So we'll see what happens in the near future. But you're right, the government school system in a lot of ways, it's failing because it's become more of a jobs program for adults than an education initiative for kids. Elon Musk reposted one of my charts that I share all the time on X, which is since 2000, the number of students in the system has been basically flat, about a 5% increase. The number of teachers in the system has increased nationwide by about twice that rate, by about 10%. But the number of administrators in the system has increased by a whopping 95%. It's a jobs program for administrators, not an education initiative for kids. And you know what? In Chicago, you zoom into districts, you see it's even more absurd than that. Since 2019, in the short term, when COVID hit, the number of students in Chicago, we know, has been decreasing. Since 2019 alone, has decreased by 10%. What did they go and do? Well, their staffing has increased by 20%. In what other industry do you think that you're having a financial situation collapse? You're losing 10% of your customer base. And then you say, it's with my infinite wisdom, what I'm going to do is hire 20% more people. I mean, you wouldn't see that in the private sector because they are not immune to competition like the government school monopoly is. So this hurts teachers who are already in the system because that means less money for them, whereas the money's going towards all these new positions. It's bad for the students, obviously. It's bad for the parents, and it's obviously a horrible job situation for the taxpayer. Public sector unions need to be abolished entirely. And FDR even knew this. And he wasn't some conservative freedom fighter like Reagan or anything. This is FDR even admitted that public sector unions, they have an incestuous relationship. There's this weird perverse incentive that's built in because they use taxpayer money to lobby against the taxpayer. There's no choice in the matter. You have to give your money to them as a taxpayer. And when they lobby for failed policies, if you don't have school choice, at least, you can't go anywhere else. There's no recourse. There's no feedback loop when they do a bad job. Whereas in the private sector, if a union does the wrong thing, one, they can get fired. Two, they're usually in the private sector negotiating with a manager that has different interests than them. And in the government sector in Chicago, the mayor who they're negotiating with was a former CTU union organizer. All he does is push for their political pet projects. He even called for a $500 million high interest payday loan when the city was already in a $500 million budget deficit. I mean, all he does, they are one and the same. They're at the separate end of the bargaining table, but I don't actually sit in these meetings. Maybe they're actually sitting on the same side of the table and saying, what do you want? I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. They're his main campaign contributor. Of course, they control him. And so In the private sector, you don't have that problem. And if you did, guess what the customers could do? If they just push for, goods and services to cost 10 times the amount they did the year before, customers could say, you know what? This is not for me. I'm going to take my money to another institution that's a fraction of the cost, that has a better product. And that's how the private industry works. This is how education can work as well. We've seen school choice improve systems in places like Florida. Their public schools have gotten so much better over time because of competition. And they spend 27% less than the national average in Florida. I mean,
there's no competition in public education. We call ourselves a capitalist country, but I deal in the realm of education, as do you. And I am in a socialist world. It is Marxist, the way the schools are set up. And the way that you have to petition your school board, it can feel sometimes so deflating as a parent, because the whole system has been set up, I feel like, against us. And we're finally awake and we're learning. And this is I think a lot of people have been doing work in this movement for a very long time. I know even when I was a graduate student, and I'm Puerto Rican, and I was one of the only person in my fellowship program that was arguing for school choice and against affirmative action. And I recognized even that young that the only solution for Black and Hispanic kids from disadvantaged backgrounds was education. Sure. And that the real solution was educating kids so that they could move up the ladder, the socioeconomic ladder, and get out of poverty and get out of these destructive cycles, having been born into poverty and having parents who taught me good lessons and raised themselves out of this cycle. And in turn, that's why I am where I am today, is that I was able to attend a Catholic school when I was younger. When I was in middle school, there wasn't a school choice program, but I was the benefit of a program that was available at my local parish, where they funded for us to get out of these horrible Milwaukee public schools and go to a Catholic school. There, but for the grace of God go I. Were it not for that education, I don't know where I'd be right now. I do not think I'd be here. I do not think that I would have been an educated person the way that I am now. And so I am living proof, and I know so many others like me, that the way to get out of that cycle of poverty is through education. But unfortunately, there's a bunch of poverty pimps that want to keep us down so that we will be in the gutter, voting for them, begging for scraps off of their table. And nothing gets me more angry than that. Shelby Steele has written about this, and he coined that term, poverty pimps. And I just reading his words back in the day in Thomas Sowell, to me, was just like, aha, like this is amazing. And now I see all these years later that finally what's COVID opened the eyes of normies and got them to look around, because before that, you would never criticize teachers. It was like taboo. They were like the sacred. You could never say anything about teachers. I'm
surprised the airlines haven't had them start boarding first before first class.
Yeah, and now
don't give them any ideas.
Suddenly they treated our kids so terribly. Many, and I'm going to say not all teachers, but the whole system seemed to be against our kids. And suddenly we had a more critical eye. And I think there are many good teachers. I think the majority are very good, and they just want to do their job. And whatever their politics, they don't want to bring them into the classroom. But as you said, at the NEA convention, there was a Madison teacher who was speaking when a group of other teachers said, hey, could we just stop talking about politics for a minute and start talking about teaching kids to read and maybe the science of reading or phonetic awareness? And they were told, hush, we're too busy. We have to take down.
We have more important work to do, they said.
Yeah, more important work to do. More important than teaching kids to read.
And guess what? In 2019, they killed a resolution. They voted it down in flames to rededicate the union to being about student learning as opposed to politics. And that shows you exactly where their priorities lie. Right after that happened, when I exposed it on X, that's when they started removing all their resolutions from the internet. And now we have to get conservative members to leak this information to us like they did with me this year. I started posting them. They sent me pictures that they took with their phone of these resolutions that passed this year. And none of them had anything to do with education. It was all declaring Trump a fascist while misspelling the word in that same resolution. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Yes.
You can't make this. They also dedicated over $200,000 in a separate resolution to get around the Mahmoud v. Taylor Supreme Court decision that now allows parents to opt their kids out of gender ideology instruction. Instead of, respecting the foundations of democracy, the teachers unions are basically trying to train teachers to get around this decision to continue pushing their far left ideological agenda into classrooms, regardless of what the Supreme Court ruled. So they are the threats to democracy which they speak of, and not Trump, not parents. And so I want to say, Scarlett, you did point out that the teachers unions did overplay their hand during COVID. It woke up parents to what was happening, the rot that was so deep in the public school system, the Marxism through critical race theory and gender ideology infecting the classrooms. We're winning so much, I'm almost getting tired of winning. We've had 17 red states since 2020 pass universal school choice, Milton Friedman's ideas finally coming to fruition right before our very eyes. I wish he were alive today to see his ideas finally in practice happening, where the money's following the child in places like Arizona and Florida, with the parents directing the upbringing of their children. And
that wouldn't have happened without COVID.
It wouldn't have happened without COVID, but it wouldn't have happened without groups like Moms for Liberty leading the charge, because the unions have always had their representation in the schools. What about the kids? The kids never had a union. Now they do. They're called parents. They've joined Moms for Liberty. They're locking arms and beating the teachers unions at their own game. And so I'm thankful for groups like yours, because a lot of parents, they had other things to do. They had to go to work. They were afraid, I think, before COVID, parents were afraid that if they spoke up at the school board meeting, one, they might be labeled terrorist. Two, they were more afraid of their kids getting retaliated against in the public school system. And a lot of parents, because they heard this on repeat, that the public schools are so great, that the teachers are all universally doing a fantastic job, and they would never inject politics into the classroom. Parents thought that maybe they would be labeled as crazy themselves for speaking up. And so when you had groups like Moms for Liberty pop up, then parents became emboldened to push back, and they've become more powerful than the unions at their own game. They've become an interest group of sorts, more of a general interest, fighting for their own kids. And so the unions, in the formal sense, the teachers unions, they're on retreat right now. They're losing to a group that's basically David versus Goliath here. The Moms for Liberty started as a very small group and has blossomed because parents see that they have that support group now. They have someone fighting for them, and they're really fighting for themselves and for their kids and for each other against the unions. And so
it really is.
I want to thank Moms for Liberty for doing that.
I've given many speeches. It's Mama Bear David versus the teachers unions Goliath. And it's been that way. Were it not for what happened with COVID and the awakening, moms like me, parents, dads would not have had that light bulb, that awareness, seen behind the curtain, and then joining together under Moms for Liberty, which we are on the front lines. I always say we're the U.S. Marines of the parental rights movement, and we're always on the front lines, fighting so hard. And we also are fighting for teachers too. I mean, just this week we were testifying and submitting testimony in support for a teacher's bill of rights, saying that teachers had the right to be safe in their classrooms.
That's right.
So
no more restorative justice BS in the schools that puts teachers in danger. I mean, it's insane. And so, it really shouldn't be framed as a debate or a war between teachers and parents. I mean, that's not the right way to think about it. It's really teachers and parents versus the one-size-fits-all system that screws both groups entirely. The system is set up to protect itself, to protect the buildings, and to protect the administrators and people like Randy and Becky who make over $500,000 a year to preach politics, to get into fights with Trump, because really they are not education organizations. They're not teaching organizations. They use all of their money to give to political causes that a lot of their members disagree with. A recent report estimated that only about 10% of the NEA's dues that teachers are basically think that they're forced to pay goes towards representing teachers. I mean, it's a lot of people don't know this, right? A lot of teachers don't know this. They think that they have to do this. You don't. It's time to opt out. It's time to defund Randy, defund Becky Pringle. I mean, Randy Weingarten was just look at this. This is Stacey Davis Gates.
Yeah.
She sends her own kid to a private school. She was quoted at the Chicago Club recently saying that that kids belong to the union. And I'm not even taking that out of context. And now just the other day, she adds this quote to her bio.
Yep.
They're always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe. And so they think they own your kids, and they're using the school system to use your children as leverage, as political pawns in their fight to expand their socialist agenda. They are real. So they think that there needs to be a communist takeover in the United States to change the very foundation of our country. And that is why they use the union to basically take over private industry, to take over the school system, and ultimately to take over the country. Because when you have the youth, I mean, you look at Randy Weingarten's new book. By the way, she copied my book cover. It looks exactly the same, except her name is really big. Hers is, I have the Parent Revolution. The word parent is in red. She puts the word fascist in red. She's basically calling parents fascists. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for her. But, basically, she was at Labor Day the other day at a Chicago teachers union with Stacey Davis Gates at the same rally, where she's on stage jumping around like she always does. She always seems like she has a trampoline behind the podium. It's just bouncing up and down the entire time, screaming at the top of her lungs. No idea what she's rambling about. But she compared President Trump to a pharaoh. Not just any pharaoh. She said that President Trump was worse than all of the pharaohs. And if you look in the Bible in Exodus, the pharaoh refused on multiple occasions to let God's people free. He would not release the Israelites. And he also continued, the pharaoh in Exodus, to order the mass killings of the Israelites' newborn children as well. And so you have the teachers union boss comparing our president to individuals who ordered mass killings and enslaved people. I mean, it's just insane how bad it's gotten. The union bosses have been drunk on power for so long. They just keep trying to move the Overton window with this Trump derangement syndrome rhetoric, but hopefully it continues to backfire in their face. I've heard this quote that's a really good one recently, that you should never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Well, maybe we should hope and pray that Randy Weingarten continues to become reelected as teachers union boss, because although they're doing all these crazy things, they are fueling the school choice movement and fueling the fire for parental rights like we've never seen before. So if they actually start to become halfway decent and rational, we might not see as much victory on the school choice front as we have. We've had more wins on the school choice front in the past 4 years than in the preceding 4 decades. Thank you, Randy. We couldn't have done it without you. I actually dedicated my book to her for overplaying her hand and fueling the homeschool movement like we've never seen before.
What I found particularly rich about Randy Weingarten is when she went on her tour, basically against Moms for Liberty, claiming that we were banning books and pulling up books that were banned. And each and every one of them was removed from schools because of people like her. To Kill a Mockingbird, doll books, Dr. Seuss, every single one of
Moms for Liberty isn't going after those books.
No,
what are you talking about?
Every single book was pulled by the left because they were too racist or they were, I'm just like, there's
they can't
nothing.
defend the books that they're trying to keep in the schools. That's the
Yes,
problem,
and
right?
they're
So they
not
do this
banned.
whole straw man argument thing that no one is making on our side. So it's hilarious, but it's kind of sad at the same time.
Clear out loud. They won't read All Boys Are Blue. They won't read the actual books that we say not banned, just not appropriate in a publicly funded kindergarten classroom.
With
Not
the Mahmoud
appropriate.
decision, I mean, you think about
Yes.
Randy went on Fox News during the Mahmoud hearings at the Supreme Court, and she even admitted, because she couldn't defend it, on Fox News that, well, if I was a teacher in 3rd grade, I wouldn't be teaching these books to my classroom. I tweeted it out and said, look, case closed. Look, even Randy Weingarten can't defend this stuff on national television. And thankfully, we won that case 6-3. Now parents can opt their kids out of gender ideology instruction. That, you got to still be vigilant. I mean, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. And parents have to be aware of, rogue school districts. They're still going to try to do it. I mean, we saw at the NEA convention, they're still training teachers to get around this Mahmoud decision to continue injecting gender politics into the classroom.
With that, I am going to put a clip that you just recently have been posting on X that shows they are still at it. They have not stopped. And this is not in this deep blue. This is in Ohio. So I think...
Thank you. I heard you mention the birth certificate. Yeah. I'm the one that reports all the data, and once we get that birth certificate, she'll be entered as a female. And no one will know the difference.
Oh, well, if she's entered as a female and no one knows the difference, that should affect athletic policy.
Aha.
Her issue is things like the bathrooms and the locker rooms. But if she's entering as a girl, I mean, I don't think there'd be an issue.
And that's kind of what Dr. Alt was referring to when he said she'll come to us as a girl. No one will know if she doesn't tell, no one will know.
Yeah. I guess it's just, I mean, who knows what the policy is necessarily with students athletes. I feel like that's like a controversy now. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's on the news.
Yeah.
Every day they're talking. Yeah. I agree.
But it shouldn't matter because how would they know that she's not a girl?
Exactly.
In some ways, because of the world in which we live in, coming in new, should make it easier, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to been here and then we transition.
Right. Yeah. We've actually changed her birth certificate in New Jersey, so I don't know if that changes anything.
That might have some. Okay. It may help.
It may help.
Don't
okay.
Let it mislead you.
This is.
It's everywhere.
Some backstory on this. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. This is not a one-off story. We have. I'm a senior advisor at Accuracy in Media as well, and they do these fantastic undercover journalism exposés in different school districts all across the country. And like you noted, they mostly go to red states to point out, like, this isn't just a blue state problem. This is in Ohio. They have videos from Iowa, Tennessee, Texas, like basically every red state too, similar to what is shown here in Ohio. This one is a parent basically saying, I want my boy to play in girls sports, my daughter, they call it, but it's actually a boy. And basically we're finding that even in states that ban boys from playing in girls sports, that have protecting girls sports acts, they're still finding ways to get around it and coach parents on how to get around the law, which in Ohio, this would still be illegal if you changed your birth certificate to say that you were a girl to play in girls sports. But that doesn't stop these radicals in the school system from trying to get around the law. I mean, we saw this in Texas too, for example. I live in Texas, and we had a bill banning critical race theory. Well, Accuracy in Media went in districts and found out that they were saying, well, don't worry, we're going to teach it anyway. And we're just going to call it, I don't know, social emotional learning. Maybe we'll call it mental health services. We just won't use a label. And they're doing the same thing with Trump's executive order banning DEI practices. And what they're doing is saying, well, we just renamed the building and the position. All the same people are still there. We're still doing the work, quote unquote. And so It's just, this is a widespread problem. I think the Assistant Attorney General of Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, has a lot of work on her plate right now, because I think they're probably getting overflowed with stuff, because, you know, you're not going to be able to snap your fingers and kill woke ideology overnight. These people got into the system for a reason in the first place. And so we have to be vigilant, keep our foot on the gas, and be aware, right? Don't just say, oh, well, Trump said you can't do this anymore, so therefore magically it's never going to happen again. You have to be even more aware than before, because it's not just right in front of you, right? It's not the Office of DEI. It's now the Office of Multicultural Studies, but we're doing the same thing. So you have to be aware, be in conversation with your children about what's happening at school, and look into it as a parent. Have those conversations with the school administrators too, to see if you get a whiff of this kind of stuff happening as well. So Accuracy in Media, they're kind of like a Project Veritas of sorts, but they focus almost entirely on higher educational institutions and K through 12 as well. And they really provide, you know, kind of great ammo for the school choice movement too, because, you know, if you can't fix the problem entirely from the top down by banning concepts, you need to have power to vote with your feet, because, you know, maybe if you're not calling it CRT, maybe in some places it's okay to do it, whatever they're doing, and kind of dancing around the law.
Right, yeah.
But meanwhile, your kid's still stuck there, right? And how long is this case going to take to unwind?
A long time. These
And
cases
so
take a long time.
you need to be able to say, to hell with this. I'm going to take my money to a private school that's aligned with my values, that actually respects me, that's not going to try to go behind my back. You have school districts keeping secrets from parents. In Congress, there was a bill that just got introduced by Republicans, Tom Cotton and another co-sponsor on the House side, that would make it would aim at preventing schools transitioning kids behind parents' backs at school, and keeping that a secret from parents and keeping them in the dark. And you know that the Democrats are all going to vote with the teachers unions on this, because they don't vote based on what their constituents want, what the voters, these are 80-20 issues on the side of the Republicans. But the thing is, politics is all about power dynamics. Doesn't have a lot to do with logic too much these days. And when you have special interests controlling the Democrat Party, known as the teachers unions, they're going to fight against this because they just want as much ability to put their thumb on the scale and to silence parents and to take their kids away from them as much as possible. So, hey, going into midterms, put it up for a vote. I know we need a 60 vote filibuster proof majority in the Senate that Republicans don't have, but let the Democrats go ahead and vote to keep secrets from parents. Let them go ahead. They already voted against the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act in the Senate. All of them voted against it.
And these are all cases that are going to be going before the Supreme Court.
Crazy.
One we know for sure they've already accepted in the docket for the upcoming year a case West Virginia about sports and athletics, and everyone is hopeful that they're going to be taking another case that would resolve once and for all the issues of bathrooms and restrooms. And I have a clip about that as well, of a girl speaking in Temecula I wanted to play. And then quickly, before time is up, to discuss something that you have been working on with Moms for Liberty CEO Tina Descovich regarding the NEA. But real quick, I wanted to play, I think I still have it here, play this clip because it's just heart-wrenching. This was just yesterday in California.
Hello, my name is Elena Resto, and I'm a student at TVUSD. I would like to discuss the issue with having biological males in a female locker room. To begin with, locker rooms involve undressing, showering, and intimate personal care. This means that females are in a very physically vulnerable state. Sharing these spaces between male and females can lead to discomfort, embarrassment, and a loss of personal dignity, especially for minors or individuals from conservative or religious backgrounds. Even if no harm is intended, the mere presence of someone of the opposite sex can cause distress to others. Sex-segregated locker rooms are a long-standing norm because they respect physical boundaries and social expectations surrounding modesty. especially in environments where people are exposed or undressed. If the biological male is highly affected by changing in the male's locker room, then they should be offered different accommodations, such as a non-binary locker room or the option to change at the nurse's office. This will help both the females that are uncomfortable with males in their space and the trans students that are uncomfortable changing in their designated locker rooms. I say no more. No more putting minor females in adult situations. No more biological males in our locker room.
Boom.
Here,
Boom,
here.
boom, boom.
Yes.
Yep. So,
Yes.
I mean,
Eighth grade
it's
girl.
crazy. It's gotten to this point, Scarlett, where you have, these students having to bring some rational conversations into the room. I mean, the adults have gone off the rails. They have no idea what they're basically turned Title IX on its head. You look at what's happening in these Virginia school districts. They're going to lose tens of millions of dollars in federal funding. Thank God for Linda McMahon laying down the law and protecting girls' sports, girls' locker rooms. But they've gone so far off the rails, these school districts, on far left gender ideology, that they're willing to put young girls in harm's way. And it is just
And you have a daughter.
unfathomable.
You have a daughter, a little girl. I have 4 daughters. So you get it. You understand how.
So they all need to lose their federal funding. Defund these monsters that will put young girls in harm's way just to appease the mental irregularities of people who at a very young age may be confused, and we should have compassion for those people. But we should not do that at the expense of 99% of the population that does not want this to be the case. We need girl locker rooms for girls, boy locker rooms for boys. This is pretty simple stuff, but the politicians and the unions haven't been able to figure this out yet. Hopefully they do sooner than later. And if they don't, well, great. Let's take their freaking federal funding away and let them pay the price.
And we're going to discuss that. I loved in this 5-hour meeting that I watched and aired live. We aired at Moms for Liberty. There was a mom who said, just so you know, I am streaming this. I have tagged Linda McMahon. I've tagged Pam Bondi, Harmeet. I'm thankful for Craig Trainer. I'm so thankful for the Department of Justice, OCR, Department of Education, and the Trump administration and President Trump himself, because they have come out of the gate swinging, fighting, and promises made, promises kept. I was on the campaign trail all throughout Wisconsin talking about this issue and urging parents to vote for President Trump. And he has kept every one of his campaign promises and then some. So I am extremely grateful. And now we want to talk about an endeavor that is really important, and that is repealing the NEA's charter. So could you explain quickly, I know we've been for an hour, but what this means, that the NEA is the only union that has a federal charter?
Yeah, the hell. What's up with that? The NEA, the largest teachers union in the country, is the only one that has a special privilege. They had the backing of Congress that was passed in 1906, over 100 years ago. They have a federal charter. I mean, why is Congress picking winners and losers? Basically, the NEA is the only winner in this case because they're the only one that has this special privilege that started in 1906. It gives them this kind of this false sense of authority. And it needs to go. We need to revoke the federal charter, get rid of it. There's a bill in Congress right now to strip them of their federal charter. And, they've strayed so far from their original purpose. You might have been able to make the argument in 1906 when they were a small organization that they were truly just about teacher rights. Now they've morphed into this political animal that has gone off the rails, with Becky Pringle just screaming at the top of her lungs, fighting against school choice, fighting for gender ideology, transgender insanity into the schools, fighting for race-based Marxism, critical race theory. It needs to go. I mean, they don't represent everyday teachers anymore. They don't represent the American public, and they certainly shouldn't have the heavy hand of Congress propping them up and making them even more influential in Washington, D.C. So let's get rid of it. Or if you're not going to get rid of it, there's another separate bill in Congress. If they want to keep it, fine. Let's use it against them. to give them some stipulations about what they can and can't do. Congress could pass a bill to, I don't know, maybe make it illegal for them to engage in political activity. Go ahead, keep your federal charter, but you don't get to lobby anymore. You don't get to be a political organization if you're going to have the backing of Congress. You're going to be more of like a nonprofit organization. You're going to be an organization that is focused on, I don't know, teaching and improving education methods. You know what they'll do if that has a chance of passing, the NEA will be begging for Congress to repeal their federal charter. So I'm good with either one of these approaches. And so I'm glad that Tina invited me to come speak at that press conference with the bill sponsors to revoke the federal charter once and for all, because they don't represent everyday teachers. They don't represent the American public, and it's time for them to go.
Yes, then we have an initiative and we've been sending it out, asking our members and asking everyone to go to our website, and I'll talk more about that and post that and things, to put your name and say, let's revoke this charter. It just doesn't make sense. They are a political organization, overtly political. They donate, they campaign, and they send out postcards. When I was running for school board, there were handwritten postcards sent out against my campaign, against everything we did, and they came from unions. So they get actively involved. They're big funders of a bunch of school board campaigns, and they're the boots on the ground. They have tons of money. And like you said, there's a union that represents these big interests. They don't represent teachers. They represent something else. There's no one to represent our kids. So the only voice that they will have is ours. And our kids, that young lady, the only opportunity she has for change is to go stand before this whole board on a dais of adults and beg them to please not make her change in front of a boy. It's so sad that there's nothing to protect our kids except for us, and so we've got to do our job. And so we could talk forever.
I know we've already took up an hour. You're like, we might do an hour. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of stuff to cover. And
there's still
I feel like we could go for a couple more.
We'll do it again.
We're in the first quarter. We're in the first quarter.
Yes, but to end, what is one piece of advice that you would give to moms and dads who are just waking up to this fight? Maybe because Maha, and you just had a really good article that we could talk about another time, because that's
Florida's leading the way.
Yeah, with parental rights and vaccine mandates by schools and parents asserting. In Wisconsin, there was a mom that was charged an extra fee just because she asked the doctor and nurse about nutrition for her kids and was questioning some of the options that were provided to her. So now that parents are getting more involved in health, maybe they're starting to take a look at all the other things. So what is your advice, and what do you say to parents that are a little weary about school choice because they're worried that would mean the government might start to take control in their private schools or their home schools?
Yeah, so I mean, like the argument is with government shekels comes government shackles. But the reality is you can get the shackles without the shekels. Look at what they're doing in New Jersey right now. They have bills to mandate DEI in the household. If you want to raise your own kids and homeschool them, they're trying to force you to adopt the government school curriculum in New Jersey. Is that a school choice problem? No, they don't have any school choice programs in New Jersey. So these authoritarians are coming for your rights. You might as well. Don't make perfect the enemy of the good. Take the incremental win. They're already taking your money from you. They're just saying that all that money has to go to the government school system. With school choice, all we're saying is give the parents the opportunity. Don't force them to do it. But if they want to take some of that money to pay for homeschooling or to pay for private education, that should be up to the parent, not to the government schools, not to the teachers unions, not to me, not to you. It should be up to the individual family to weigh those costs and benefits themselves. That said, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. If there are any amendments to a bill to try to add more burdensome regulations, we should fight like hell together against those amendments, because the Democrats will try to do these regulations, whether you have school choice or not. If you look historically speaking as well, in Oregon, they outlawed private education altogether. Was that because of a school choice program? No, they didn't have one. It's because authoritarians wanted to control the minds of other people's children. So I'll say one more thing. The way that you can fight back and win is building a broader coalition, and school choice can reduce the likelihood of regulations in the future by having more people on your team. If you can allow more people to access private and home-based education, now when authoritarians come and put up a bill like in New Jersey and say, oh, we're going to take your rights away, you'll have a bigger team to say, hell no, not today, Satan. Go home. Leave us alone. We will not comply. We will not listen to you. We will not let you control our children, because they don't belong to the government. They belong to the parents, who should be in the driver's seat to make the best decisions for their own kids. So look, we're on the same team here. Don't overthink things, but also fight together against this overreach when it comes. Look at New York City. They have a provision for homeschoolers and for private education to have a substantially equivalent education to the public schools. Well, maybe they haven't thought about this through real well, because the private educated population, they don't want a public education. They don't want it to be substantially equivalent. They want to get away from what's happening in the public school system. That's why people are leaving to homeschool in New Jersey. They don't want DEI. So what did the authoritarians do in their infinite wisdom? They're trying to introduce bills to make that DEI happen in the private sector as well, and try to force that onto your kids at home. So look, school choice gives you an extra ability, extra amount of leverage to fight back. And so you're never going to have a perfect solution. You mentioned Thomas Sowell earlier. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. School choice isn't a silver bullet. Nothing is. We don't live in utopia, but it is the best incremental reform that we have. There are trade-offs, but it's much better than the status quo, where you're forced into a system with no options whatsoever. And hey, look, school choice programs are all voluntary. They always have been. So that's up to the parent, not to us.
Yes, you're 100% right. And in Wisconsin, where we have charter schools and choice, written into the statute are a whole bunch of protections for schools that are involved. They're not required to use a certain curriculum.
No school choice program has ever mandated CRT, for example. We've had decades of evidence of this. If anything, think about it, Scarlett, the places that have more school choice, they have better homeschool laws. You think about, like Iowa, for example, they have universal school choice, some of the best homeschooling. Texas, Oklahoma, they all have the best school choice and also the best homeschooling. So the thing is, what's happening here is that legislators can walk and chew gum at the same time. The same people fighting to kill school choice on the Democrat side are the same people trying to take your right to raise your own kids away in the form of homeschooling. The same people fighting for school choice on the Republican side are the same people who want to respect your autonomy as a homeschooler. And if you think about it, in Ohio, when they passed universal school choice, the same session in 2023, they also passed a law to reduce homeschooling regulation. So, these things are not in conflict. On the other hand, in Illinois, 2 years ago, they killed their school choice program in 2023. And then this year, the authoritarians tried to come after homeschooling too. So they're not going to stop with killing school choice. They also come after homeschool freedom as well.
Yes.
And they had 40,000 homeschoolers sign up against that bill in Illinois. They still passed it through committee on a party line vote. Every single Democrat sided with the unions and didn't listen to the parents.
Yes, I would not. My friends that are homeschooler, they are a tough group, and they've been fighting for their rights for a long time. And now there's so many different ways to homeschool with the micro schools. And so I think more options, the better. And so I've seen school choice work very well here in Wisconsin, and there's no perfect solution, but we have to fund kids, not systems, like you say, and we have to be moving towards educational freedom. And we have to take these small steps.
The argument is also, I've heard that this is some globalist takeover of the private schools. Well, why do all the globalists vote against school choice unanimously? Look, like if you're on Randy Weingarten's side, you're probably on the wrong side here. I mean, Milton Friedman, Donald Trump, all big supporters of school choice. And so don't overthink it. I mean, if it was true that this is some globalist takeover, Randy Weingarten wouldn't be spending tens of millions of dollars every single year to try to kill school choice. She'd be voting to promote it, right? She'd be pushing her members and political contributions to people who vote to expand school choice, not against it. So, look, this is the best tool we have to fight against government overreach. And so I will be speaking at the Moms for Liberty Summit in October. You should go. It's October 16th through 19th in Orlando at the Gaylord. It's at a great location. I've been there before. And you're not going to want to miss it. And I want to thank you guys for inviting me to come out and talk too.
Thanks for coming on. And I want to promote our Moms for Liberty Joyful Warriors Summit. Corey will be there and he will be speaking much like my God, I've learned so much. I was taking notes while you were talking.
For the record, that suit is not the same exact suit that I'm wearing right now. It is actually a little different. I'm kind of like the Steve Jobs of the school choice movement. He did the black turtleneck thing. So just clearing the air because you brought the picture up.
Yeah, different editions. But if you have not signed up, if you haven't bought tickets yet, now is the time. We are announcing new speakers every single day, and Corey will be there. So Corey, thank you so much for being a fearless voice for parents. We've uncovered union doublespeak. We've talked about woke politics drowning real learning. This fight isn't academic. It's about our kids' future, and it's our right as parents to lead it. So that's exactly why Corey will be joining us in person at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior Summit, October 16th through the 18th in Orlando. And we're bringing together parents, experts, lawmakers to further ignite this parent-first movement. And Corey's message of funding kids, not systems, will be at the heart of it. So I hope to see you there. And I will see you there in person, Corey, and that will be great. And we'll have to talk some more. Thank you so much for coming on, and have fun in Australia.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. All right. We'll talk again soon. Bye. Station with Corey DeAngelis. And I wanted to go a little bit further into the repeal of the NEA Charter Act. There's legislation to strip the NEA of its federal congressional charter. This is sending a powerful message that Washington no longer is going to endorse these woke union politics. And Moms for Liberty is leading the way in a national campaign of support for this initiative, working closely with Congressman Mark Harris and Senator Marsha Blackburn to turn this into law. And we're asking every mom and dad to add their voice to this effort. And I'm going to just play a quick clip of my friend Rosalind talking to Congressman Harris.
Congressman Harris about today is our citizen co-sponsor campaign at Moms for Liberty. If anyone who's watching this is as disappointed in that report card as the two of us are, then you're going to want to go to momsforliberty.org and sign our citizen co-sponsor campaign in support of Congressman Harris's revocation of the NEA Charter Act. That way he can see the hundreds of thousands of American parents who are fed up with the teachers' union's control of public education. So that's momsforliberty.org, and hopefully we can rally around you.
I think that would be awesome. Anytime that we get people that are willing to say, we stand with you, that only builds momentum. And the more momentum we have, the more that folks recognize this is not just an idea by a few people. This is a movement. It's something that parents, Moms for Liberty, they're demanding that we as Congress step in and at least send this signal at a minimum to the NEA.
Thank you.
That was great. And again, let's bring this up. So this about the initiative. This is an initiative where we need your support to help show the National Education Association that parents, not corrupt union members, are the primary decision makers in our children's education. And that's why we took our advocacy straight to Capitol Hill to advance the National Education Association Charter Repeal Act. And now we've launched a nationwide campaign to support its passage, and we're counting on you to lead the way. We'll ensure your signed citizen co-sponsor is delivered directly to Congressman Mark Harris of North Carolina, who is the House sponsor of this legislation. So if you go to momsforliberty.org, and I'll put a link directly in, you can add your name and why this bill matters. Well,
at the 2022 and 2023 National Convention, as we just talked about with Corey, the NEA demanded the defunding of the police. They voted to promote decolonizing the curriculum, code for erasing Western civilization and replacing it with this grievance-based activism. They promoted Black Lives Matter propaganda and LGBTQ plus ideology as their educational priorities. And you can see where those new priorities have landed us with the NAEP, the NAEP, the Nation's Report Card scores showing that in never before have American students tested lower than they do now. All of this woke garbage has done nothing, absolutely nothing but harm America's children. And that just leads to generational poverty and a loss of generational opportunities. They have endorsed critical race theory, vowed to fight back against states that ban it. They suggest that teachers should hide a student's gender identity from parents. And just this year, they cut ties with the Anti-Defamation League, one of the nation's largest defenders against anti-Semitism, and pledged to defend democracy against President Trump's supposed embrace of fascism, only to misspell the term. Instead, they don't know it, they can't spell it, but they should look in the mirror. The NEA is not helping America's schools, it's destroying them, all with the backing of a congressional charter. It's a special privilege from the federal government, shared by only a few groups like the Red Cross. So please, please stand with us and join thousands of other concerned parents and grandparents and American citizens and sign the citizen co-sponsor of the National Education Association Charter Repeal Act today. And here's what it looks like. So become a citizen co-sponsor. That's an easy thing to do, an easy way to make a difference. And imagine if we can just have hundreds of thousands of folks that sign, and we deliver this to and send a message that it's ridiculous. We will fund kids, not system, and we've got unions on the ropes right now. We need to go and end this monopoly, end this this money laundering scheme that's called teachers union. Corey was 100% right. These unions are nothing more than a money laundering scheme. The money doesn't go to students, it doesn't go to teachers, it doesn't go to schools, it goes to politics. It goes to politics, and it lines the pockets of union bosses. As we spend more money, it's not being spent on anything other than administrators, upper echelons. It's a jobs program, and it funds buildings. It just doesn't fund kids. And you know why it funds building? Because then you get subcontracts. It's sometimes a school district is the largest employer of a community. Okay, this is a jobs program, a woke jobs program. They're employing people that would otherwise not have jobs, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, because what good does your gender studies degree with your minor in anti-wokeness or whatever it is? What good is that in the real world? What good is that? What good is a gender studies degree? I mean, I've just I found something. I'm going to look for it, where it was a class, transgender, to study transgenderism, a whole class in Texas. I have it here. And it's ridiculous. If you want to study transgenderism, here's how easy it is. There's two sexes, there's no such thing as gender, and there's no such thing as a transgender child. End of class. Done. It's over. Instead, they've got this ridiculous class, one of many. There are so many things like this. Oh, here it is. Open it up. Here's the class. It's 400 level class, so this is an upper level class. Transgender studies, 3 credit hours. Transgender studies. And I guarantee you that the person taking this class will become the DEI hire in your kid's K-12 school. And what do you think? I have sat through trainings where teachers attend 4 credits. So part of their licensure, there's teachers will have to attend seminars, and every year they have to go and take a certain amount of credits in order to maintain their license. And some of the presentations that I have had to sit through for education, professional development would shock you. And the fact that so-called PhDs are giving lessons in which the grammar is terrible, they can't write, their language skills are subpar, and they insist on you calling them doctor. I actually shocked that anyone gave them a degree, a PhD, but here you go. This is the kind of university that will hand them a PhD in transgenderism. You know, what good is that degree in the real world? There is no value to it, none whatsoever. So again, jobs program, and not a jobs program for teachers, educators, science teachers. It's for nonsense. It's for utter nonsense. And hold on. This kind of nonsense. You just have to remember, union boss, the children are always ours. Don't forget what Corey told us, what he showed us. Look at this. The children are always ours. Remember what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. These are not your children. They're our children. And don't forget, this is what's happening. Instead of adhering to Mahmoud v. Taylor, this is what's happening.
Thank you. When I heard you mention the birth certificate, I'm the one that reports all the data, and once we get that birth certificate, she'll be entered as a female. And no one will know the difference.
Oh, well, if she's entered as a female and no one knows the difference, that should affect athletic policy. Other issue is things like the bathrooms and the locker rooms, but if she's entering as a girl, I mean, I don't think there'd be an issue.
And that's kind of what Dr. Alt was inferring to when he said she'll come.
Thank you.
When I heard you mention the birth certificate.
And we can't forget this. Instead of adhering to Mahmoud v. Taylor, this is what's happening behind closed doors.
Thank you. When I heard you mention the birth certificate, I'm the one that reports all the data, and once we get that birth certificate, she'll be entered as a female. And no one will know the difference.
Oh, well, if she's entered as a female and no one knows the difference, that should affect athletic policy. Other issue is things like the bathrooms and the locker rooms, but if she's entering as a girl, I mean, I don't think there'd be an issue.
And that's kind of what Dr. Alt was inferring to when he said she'll come to us as a girl. No one will know it if she doesn't tell. No one will know.
Issue, I guess, is just, I mean, who knows what the policy is necessarily with students, athletes. I feel like that's like a controversy now. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's on the news.
Yeah.
Every day they're talking. I agree.
But it shouldn't matter because how would they know that she's not a girl?
Exactly.
In some ways, because of the world in which we live in, coming in new, should make it easier, right?
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to been here and then we transition.
Right. Yeah. We've actually changed her birth certificate in New Jersey, so I don't know if that changes anything.
That might have some,
Okay.
It may help.
It may help?
Don't
Okay.
mislead you.
Yeah, this is what we're dealing with. And we can't forget this. This is what's happening behind closed doors. Even in red states, rather than adhere to Mahmoud v. Taylor, this is the kind of nonsense that and we can't forget this. This is what's really happening behind closed doors, even in red states like Ohio. Instead of adhering to Mahmoud v. Taylor, this is what's happening. It's unbelievable.
Thank you. When I heard you mention the birth certificate, I'm the one that reports all the data, and once we get that birth certificate, she'll be entered as a female. And no one will know the difference.
Oh, well, if she's entered as a female and no one knows the difference, that should affect athletic policy. Other issue is things like the bathrooms and the locker rooms, but if she's entering as a girl, I mean, I don't think there'd be an issue.
And that's kind of what Dr. Alt was referring to when he said she'll come to us as a girl. No one will know if she doesn't tell, no one will know.
Yeah. Issue, I guess, is just, I mean, who knows what the policy is necessarily with students, athletes. I feel like that's like a controversy now. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's on the news.
Yeah.
Every day they're talking. Yeah. I agree.
But it shouldn't matter because how would they know that she's not a girl?
Exactly.
In some ways, because of the world in which we live in, coming in new should make it easier, right?
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to been here and then we transition.
Right. Yeah. We've actually changed her birth certificate in New Jersey, so I don't know if that changes anything.
That might have some,
Okay.
It may help.
It may help?
Don't
Okay.
let it mislead you.
This is just sad. It's ridiculous. I'm so grateful to Accuracy in Media and Corey for exposing what is happening. And a lot of what we know about the unions is from his investigative reporting and the tips that he receives. And again, I want to discuss, this was another article that hopefully next time we can get to. No mandatory vaccines for Florida parents, kids, and Freedom Win. The parental rights movement is expanding. The Make American Schools Healthy Again initiative. So this is very, very encouraging. And this year's Joyful Warriors Summit in Orlando, Florida, we're going to have a lot of new and exciting speakers that are going to speak to this movement that is just opening so many eyes, including myself. There's so much I never knew, and I'm glad to be aware now. And again, these are just a few slides I didn't get to when I was interviewing Corey. The NAEP data that shows, this is just appalling, shows that seniors who graduated in 2024 performed worse than those who graduated in 2019 significantly. We were right about everything. We were right about everything. And it's unfortunate that we were treated like domestic terrorists instead of moms with intuition who know better than bureaucrats. But right behind it came this tidal wave of ideology. Started off opening schools, removing masks, exposing the tyranny, trying to shed light on madness. Within a year, our schools turned from closed classrooms into semi-closed classrooms, in some areas still fully closed for years, but equity programs, radical gender lessons, and Title IX chaos. What happened? What didn't happen? These are topics we are still talking about because look at these NAEP scores. Look at the anxiety, the depression. It's the declining birth rate, the declining marriage rates. What's happening with kids, the addiction to screens and technology. All of that is a result of this. It goes back to 2020, probably farther back, definitely. But my realization, the realization of so many starts there. That's our origin story. Right after the closures, George Floyd's death sparked a wave of these equity initiatives, and schools began filtering everything through race-based ideology. I think they had before, but it just went into overdrive, and they thought, hey, we can be public about it now. We don't even have to hide. And unions became activist educators right out in the open. And that meant that they could really openly and overtly push political agendas. And they had the cover of all the mainstream news and local politicians, and they used fear as a weapon. And then 2022, gender ideology, schools pushing explicit content, confusing messages to very young kids. And unions were very involved in advancing all that and destabilizing our culture and our children even more. Then comes Title IX contortions, boys and girls bathrooms, the erasure of girls sports, unions pushing and protecting these agendas. And parents just really begun to push back. We are now the force that's going toe to toe with these unions. And reflecting on it all, from closed schools to equity to gender to the Title IX confusion, what does this arc tell us about the priorities of our school system? That they're messed up. And it's our job to steer our schools, education, colleges where we train and educate students to become future educators. We have to steer them back to basics. The NAEP scores make that very clear, very, very clear. We must get back to basics. So the National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP, often called the nation's report card, began in 1969. And the results, the 2024 results that were released, we're playing this recording, and I just have to stop it right here. This is me last week. This is literally an hour and a half before Charlie Kirk is assassinated. Hear what I'm listening to what I'm saying, and I'm just like, blown away. It's not unique to me. It's not like, oh, special because Scarlett Johnson said it. It's just what's been out there and said. It's hitting me now. Just remove for 1 second. It's hitting me now. I mean, everything that's Corey and I had we laid all the foundation. We're talking about what's happening in schools. What kids are learning, what the teachers unions, the NAEP scores mean. intellectually down. Our kids can't read as well. They can't write as well. They can't process as well. They can't do math. They can't do science. They can't write cursive. Boom, all this. The same time, another trajectory goes up. They're on screens more, playing video games more. They are confused about what reality. Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube. Video games. And the video games that, listen, Sims. Y'all have heard of that, Sims? There's virtual reality, the game sets they put on their heads. Our children in 2020 were robbed. They were robbed of normalcy, of their childhood. And I can say this because I was a parent who feeling so sorry for my kids. Here's a device. I want you to be happy. I want you to talk to your friends, and the only way to do it is through this device. So, okay, I'm going to do things that I don't feel are right. I'm going to let you have a little more access because everything is online. Luckily for my kids and for myself, I followed the alternative media before it was cool to follow the alternative media. I was listening to Steve Dace, and I was listening to Glenn Beck, and I was doing my own research, okay? Before it was cool. I'd gone from stay-at-home mom driving my minivan. I had a black Honda minivan, okay? I am a person who never spoke at a school board meeting in my life. I didn't even know what a school board was. I didn't know anything. Over 5 years ago, I would be indistinguishable from the normies that we always complain about. I was very involved in my kids' life. And happy to, and having 5 kids, and like, now I was born and raised Republicans. I listened to Rush Limbaugh, political science major, master's degree, went to law school, dropped out when I had my son. But so I cared about national politics, but I didn't think local politics was boring. It wasn't on my radar. It wasn't, you know, I moved to an area that was A+ school rate. It came from nothing. Okay, first of all, if you don't know my story, I came from nothing. My mom was 14 when she was pregnant with me, 15 when she had me, came from nothing. So I'm not, I know that I'm doing well now, born into poverty. My dad was a Marine, came from nothing. My whole life, I dreamed of living exactly where I'm living right now. And I had parents that told me you can do it, and they sacrificed and they gave everything for my education. Everything. So I arrive, I'm in this great subdivision, this great part of my state, place I always wanted to live. Think I've arrived. And even before COVID, I volunteered a lot. I started to see things and notice things. Didn't seem right. Spelling doesn't count anymore. This new math where you guess, what? I can't sit down and do math with my children because they're doing it this weird way that I don't even understand. Doesn't make sense. You guess at math. Math is a known quantity. You can arrive at the answers for math. You don't have to guess. But that was before Common Core. So I saw Common Core up close and personal.
Common Core, I had a kid that was gifted and talented, a kid that tested off the charts, and I had another kid that was classified as ADHD. And the other way. And I'll tell you what the public schools did. They didn't do any for either of those kids. They didn't have, they were removing programs for gifted and talented. And then they were changing things up. So for kids that had special needs or needed extra help, they were like, they go to a doctor and get some drugs. Get some drugs for my kid. I was shocked. I just couldn't believe this. Like, and so I pulled my youngest kids all out and put them in a private Catholic school. And at first, when I told my husband that this is what we're going to do, he was like, we moved here to not pay for private school. I'm saying some things right now I've never said before. And so I said, honey, go volunteer in the school. Go challenge you. So he decided he would do one of the classes for, I think I had a daughter in 4th grade where he went and he talked to her class. And I said, go sit in the lunchroom. Twice. He came back the second time and said, let's do it. Let's pull them all out. My husband is a great business person, frugal man. And what he saw when I'm like, go to the schools. And when he saw it, and this is before COVID, this is like, when was this? 2013. And we sat and we thought, again, this is stuff I've never said before. We talked. I remember we're talking. We both had an experience with Catholic schools. My husband had gone to Catholic schools all through, and his parents, it was a great sacrifice, came from a very large family in Wisconsin, Catholic family, a lot of kids, but it was a huge sacrifice. But they would send the kids to Catholic school in elementary, but then they would go to a public high school because the tuition was way too expensive for a private high school. So background, he had the same background as I did. I went to a public school up to 6th grade, and then I went to Catholic school from 6th grade on. However, I was raised like in the church as a child. And I'm the oldest, so my younger siblings all went. And the only reason why I went to a Catholic school, this is before choice, they had a program for families in poverty. And the parish would subsidize the tuition of some families that were in extreme poverty, but needed to escape from the horrible, absolutely horrendous Milwaukee public schools. And we were lucky to get this generous, scholarship, this generous from the parish. And I had to clean the bathrooms. I had to clean the lunchrooms. My mom had to volunteer. We would have to do different things, but it was all worth it because we were able to escape the public schools. So when my husband and I were talking, we're like, what's missing? I'm like, we were raised in these Catholic, we were raised with values. And we noticed in our kids, like, I had to, because of moving around a lot, I was a Navy wife for 12 years. I had to homeschool different times, different things happening. So when we finally settled down, we're back in Wisconsin, I'm putting my kids in to public school. And it's not like I could say this teacher, like, it was woke. It was nothing like that. It was just like I could sense in my spirit, like something was off. Something something had changed. And there was something my kids weren't getting. And I realized what they weren't getting was Christianity or morals, values, and and then when I had my kids tested, they were all at least a year or two behind. So while they were testing great in a public school, when they were tested by the Catholic school in my area, they were like, we'll take the kids, but they're a year behind. They're going to have a lot of work to do. I was shocked. But when I think about it now, when one of my daughters, of my 5, number 4, when she was 5 years old and could not read and could not write her name, and I was working with, and I was volunteering in that classroom all the time, but I had other kids, and then I had a baby. It was hard. So I get it with parents, Mom, I get it when sometimes you'll hear pundits say, oh, homeschool, oh, like parents, you should do. When you have multiple kids running around and you're driving one place to another and you're trying to be a great parent, and one is into soccer, one is into basketball, and there's dance lessons, and one wants to learn the piano, and there's just a play date and napping, and it's really hard. It's really hard to be present when you have multiple kids and you are stay-at-home mom. And then in order to live that lifestyle, your husband has to work, because someone has to, so a lot of those responsibilities fall upon you as the mom. And so it's nice when I see in comments, oh, get your kids out of public school. Oh, just homeschool. That's easier said than done sometimes. So we've got to fix what's happening, because it's not fair to say, like, the schools that 50% of your property taxes are going for, and your sales taxes and federal taxes and state taxes, the things that you are subsidizing, the entity in your community which is gobbling up your tax dollars, your property tax dollars, that is not functioning well, and it's actually like maybe detrimental for your kids. And if you don't like it, well, just homeschool or find a private school so you can double, so that you can pay 10 grand a year on top of your property taxes, 10 grand per kid, to send them to, like, that's unfeasible, that's unaffordable, especially right now. Okay. So we've got to fix what's happening. And if states are going to pay 20, 22, 30, 37 grand a kid for public school, why can't parents have that money? Why can't that money go to the parents and the kid? Why must it fund that school in your district? Why can't parents have a choice? Why is it so bad for parents to have a choice? That money is being spent. Those are tax dollars. Why can't we have a say? Why must we live in supposedly a capitalist society, but in education, it's Marxist. You don't get decisions. You don't get a choice. You get to go to the school that is in the where you live. That's it. You have to move if you go anywhere else. It's like
if you only could go to one grocery store, like what Corey said. Imagine. And if the grocery store is empty, too bad. If you don't like it, move. We would never tolerate it. Imagine there's a Target in your area. It's the only place you can get groceries, and it's overpriced and junky, and the food's moldy. If there's food at all, but that's where you have to go, and you can't go anywhere else unless you move. We would be up in arms. But with education, with our children, well, that's the way it is, I guess. We don't really have a choice. I guess we just have to take it. We have to rewire our brains. We have to think about education in a way that is more of a free market approach. We have to look at education different. We have to imagine that there is a service that we are paying for and demand that it be a quality service. And that teachers, not unions, not DEI hires, not administrators that you're not sure exactly what they do, but that teachers are paid a competitive salary for a very important job. So we pay teachers more, we pay them competitively, we pay them based on the outcome and not the outcome of a standardized test. Figure out some different things. It has been done. It can be done. This is we are sending our kids to Marxist, Maoist indoctrination camps every single day for 8 hours a day and wondering why there is a problem in America. To say, I wonder how this could have happened to Charlie. I know how it happened. I know how it happened. We all know how it happened. We're being gaslit to pretend we don't know how it happened, to pretend that this could happen to anybody. No. Just don't be gaslit. We know how it will happen. Now, most kids won't make the decision of Tyler Robinson. But too many of them are saying the stupidest stuff I have ever heard in my life. It's a small percentage, but it's too much. We have a culture. We have look at the Emmys or the Oscars. We have a culture. We don't idolize these idiots with IQs of like 10. These words, what's happening, it has very real consequences. Maybe the result won't be a murderer. But how many people do you know who have kids that won't talk to them anymore? How many families are ripped apart? How many grieving grandparents? Too many. Fight for your kids. Fight for your grandkids.
It's not a foregone conclusion. Love each other. Put politics aside. Turn everything off. Turn the screens off, all of it. Bring out books, hang out, touch grass. Lead by example. We're going to lose so much if we can't shut this stuff off and just get back to building what's real. I didn't plan to say any of this, but watching what was said just a week ago. And when I said this stuff, it's hard. It's hard to, it's like a premonition, but the whole world can go away. All of this can go away. I can walk away from this tomorrow for my kids. There isn't anything that we do that is worth sacrificing our kids. I'll tell you, as vocal as I am, a lot of times I was so worried that my kids' friends wouldn't like, I worried about so many things, and it turns out I worried too much. It turns out what my grandma said was true. You wouldn't care about what people think about you if you realized how little they do. We obsess, and people aren't thinking about you as much as they think they are. They don't care what you do as much as you think they do. And a lot of the messages that you get online, the hate, it's like a bot or someone that won't even show their name. In real life, someone like me that says stuff like this out loud every day, well, you know what I get mostly every day? Thank you. That's what I get. People don't have a clue who I am, or if they do, they're like, thank you. And if they don't like me in person, I don't know, they just go the other way. And I also just don't pay attention to it. I don't read a lot of the comments, so screw you if you're writing in the comments, like, get a life. I could give a crap. I could give a crap what, some loser doesn't even put their name says about me. What the hell do I care? That is the, Abigail Schreier said, it is this, I'm telling you that when you finally stop caring what people think, it's like a superpower. It's a superpower. And that doesn't mean that you act like rude and crazy. Like, I'm a nice person. And most of the time, like, I don't want to talk about people try and come talk politics to me. And I'm just like, I don't, whatever, you do you. But I don't care. If you don't like me, oh well. Bye-bye. I don't care. I care about, there's a finite group of people that I care. And if they have a problem with me, then it matters because they love me. So people who love me, I care what they think. People who hate me, go to hell. I don't care what you think. If you hate me and you really don't like what I'm doing something right? Right? This is just like common sense here. I am probably a little off my rocker because I think that I can change the world. I think one person can. And maybe only crazy people think that you can change the world. But I think I can change the world. And I think if you're listening to me right now, you can change the world. And that's what I tell young people. And young people like to listen to me talk because you know what? I don't talk down to them. And I'm always trying to learn more from them and learn how they like. I'm trying, listen, social media, it's a young person's world. So I'm just here trying to like, I'm living in there. I'm trying to figure things out. And Gen Z is great. Most tolerant, open-minded group I think that has ever walked the face of the earth. And it's a god darn shame that these kids are called racist and all this other stuff when they are the most open-minded, tolerant group. They just don't want to put up with any bullcrap anymore. So as conservatives, do what Charlie did. Don't feed them bullcrap. They want honesty. They want you to be real. They like it. Even if they don't agree with you, they like it when you're real. So be real. Don't pee on their leg and tell them it's raining. They know. They lived through COVID, okay? They've been lied to, manipulated, and hopefully they're not having it anymore. So the kids that aren't Tyler Robinson, which are most of them, they're good kids. They're a little undereducated. They still need adults, and they need guidance. And you can't be afraid to be a parent to your own child. And if you do things fearing that they won't like you anymore, they're not going to like you because you're being fake. I don't know. The number one thing I can say to do with your kid is just love them. Love them. I will love my kids. I will love them no matter what. And they know it. They don't have to think like me. They don't have to vote like me. They can I will love them no matter what. And I want them to choose for themselves. I want them to hear all sides and make a decision. I will not force an opinion upon them. And I listen to them, and I change my mind based on what they say, because they think differently, but it's good. They challenge me in good ways I need to be challenged. And that's my TED Talk. Oh, yeah. I have just so much love in my heart for kids. I've always loved kids. I love my grandkid that's 2 years old. Like I love Halloween. I love Christmas. I love embracing and celebrating childhood innocence. And I'm so angry that there are adults that want to take that away. That's such a special time. It's the best time. And we should all try to keep it and preserve it and keep it within ourselves. And I hate that I hate that adults want to destroy the hopes and dreams of little kids, middle school kids, high school kids, college kids, that they want to take all of their hope and crush it. That they want to tell them these things that aren't true. That they want to
take femininity away from women and childbirth and child raising, and they want to make men into emasculated women and women into these He-Man. It's a violation of nature, and when you are operating in that space, it's only going to end in catastrophe. And Jordan Peterson said all of this way more eloquent than I do. I am doing the South Side version of Jordan Peterson right here. Okay, this is the not Harvard version. This is the, this is the, ghetto version of Jordan Peterson. I think I'm intelligent, but I'm not at that level. I'm just gonna say it like it is. And if I watched him, he would say it in such a better way, talking about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey and all that, which I love, but it's just straight, honest talk. So I will go back because it's getting late, and I should put my kids to bed who are waiting for me. And my lovely husband brought home Indian food, so I didn't cook tonight. But man, girls, if you're listening and you're not married, marry a good man. I married a great man. And boys, marry a good woman. And you know what that is. Don't settle for anything other than that. Life is great. It's hard. That's okay. That's because the hard stuff makes all the good stuff good. To quote Charlie, have children before you can afford them. Have more than you think you can afford. Because nothing will inspire you to greatness more than having mouths to feed. Don't be so materialistic. There are a lot of things you don't need to have that you think you do. And the happiest times of your life as you get older will be reminiscing about, like I do, the couch I pulled off, literally my first apartment, managed apartment building, pregnant. It was a perfectly good couch on the side of the street, and it really was perfectly good. Cleaned it and bought a slip cover for it, and it was a great couch for a bunch of years. Estate sales and Goodwills have good stuff. Homemade Christmas ornaments are beautiful. I still have a tradition of making Christmas ornaments every year because couldn't afford ornaments. The first Christmas I was married, could not afford ornaments, so we made them cookies and glitter and pine cones, and it's the best. That's the good stuff. That's the fun stuff, man. It makes you appreciate the other. It's like the hardship, the working for something, that's what makes attaining it wonderful. And I'm telling you, you can be a great parent really young. I was pregnant when I was 23, had my son at 24. And I had the time of my life. I tried to go back to law school. I couldn't. Because even then, at that young age, I'm sitting in class, constitutional law or whatever, and I just kept thinking I'm missing everything. His first steps, everything, all the good stuff.
And one day I was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, I never get his childhood back, but I could always go back to law school. But then I had kid after kid, so didn't do that. But I don't regret it. So I could have a degree and not my children, not all the grandchildren I will have. What the hell? That's a sucky deal. Oh, I get to have my degree, but not my children. No. I made the right choice. And I'd make it again 100 times. The world will tell you lies. Because people who didn't make the right decision are trying to convince themselves that they did. And sometimes, like my dad used to always say, misery loves company. And they'll drag you right into the mud with them so they can feel better. Don't let them. If they made such a good decision, why do they have to convince you you made a bad one? Fix your priorities, and I think young people already are. It's not fun to be a woman in your late 30s with no prospects to get married and no children. Chelsea Handler, like, this is late enough to say, well, she probably has fun with her, like, she talks about her drinks and her vibrator and all the other crap she does. Like, good, she can do her. I have my children. I have a family. I have people that love me. I have nieces and nephews. My mom has 19 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Nothing can replace that. Nothing. And if this is all the stuff that we're talking about because what happened to Charlie Kirk, this is the best way that we can honor him. To talk about the things, I never talked about this stuff before. And there's 25,000 people watching me talk about this. Maybe because not enough women do talk about it. But it's the truth. And I hope that there are young people listening. I have no reason to lie, none whatsoever. I have nothing to gain. You're not paying to watch this. I'm not asking you to donate. I have nothing. This is just wisdom. And if you've never heard it before, I'm glad you're hearing it now. Make good choices. Look for a partner. Build a life. Aim high. When you do a job, give it 150%. I promise you, no matter what you do, you're going to get ahead. If you're a man, think that you're going to have to support a family. If you're a woman, continue your education, continue with the job. Try and think like, what can I do so that when I have a baby, I can be present as much as possible? Yeah, I may have to work, I may have to still go to school, but how can I be as present as possible? Live close to your parents so your parents can help you. This whole like, go a million miles away to college and move to the other side. Like, why would you leave? Like, stay closer to your family who will help you. And families help each other, expecting nothing else in return. This is La Familia. This is this is the way I was raised.
In the Hispanic culture, this is the way you're raised. Ethnic cultures. And it used to be that a lot of European cultures raise their kids this way, and then they didn't. Get back to that. You're not on an island. And when your kid turns 18, it's not like, oh, not my problem anymore. Like, no. No. I don't know happy people that don't talk to their kids, don't see, you know, just keep your family close and have good friends. And get involved. Politics should not be a religion, nor should it be your family. But you got to get involved because culture, politics, local, and politics doesn't mean partisan, but all this stuff matters. And there's just too few people that think they're like, oh, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be political. It's like, well, great. Isn't that wonderful? When normal people aren't political, all the crazy people who are political ruin everything. Normal people have to be political. If you're not, then the crazy people are the only ones who are political. And then we're really stuck. And don't you think that the crazy people are trying to discourage the normal people from getting involved? Like all the crazy people, they want to own the space so that they can control everything. And then we're all wondering, like, what the heck's going on? It's only crazy people everywhere we look. Well, because you didn't get involved. If you're going to Netflix and chill, don't be surprised what happens. All right. We're going to watch the end. This is the Scarlett Johnson TED Talk. Like, that's what happens when I stay up too late. So we're going to watch the end now. And I had to edit some of this. It's a little choppy, but okay. Not professional. Do all of this myself, okay? I've had to teach myself a lot of things. So, you know, if you're watching this, this is not the Daily Wire here, okay? This is just doing all of this. One, I'm like running kids around, I'm answering the phone, I'm doing a lot of stuff. Like, this is normal. This is what happens when, so don't judge too harshly. I could have it all seamlessly put together, but then there's like a million things like that. Go on YouTube. All looks pretty. It's all like great. It's all that. And it's all fake. But if you want to watch something fake, go ahead. You have lots of options. And if you want to watch something real, here you go. That's why I call it Unplugged. It was reminiscent of MTV Unplugged because I'm Generation X. And frankly, it's really hard to come up with a name. It's really hard to come up with a name for a show. And I liked it. I just wanted to talk like, here's my idea, that you go to a party, you're dressed up, or you go to an event and you're all dressed up and you look all nice. But what happens when you come back and you take off your high heel shoes and you slip them off and your feet are hurting, you have blisters and you're just sitting back and then you're talking to your friends, like Unplugged, like it's the conversation after the show. And that's what I wanted this to be. The conversation you have, like the real one. I've been in studios where I record a show and it's all like put together. And then afterwards we sit back and we're like talking. And people have said, I'm going to tell you, this conversation you've had after the show was way more interesting than the one you had in front of a camera. And I'm like, why can't we have those conversations? Like the real ones. The real ones that might be embarrassing. The ones where I'm like, this is what I do. I do this a lot. When I go testify, I was told I had to stop doing this. I move my chair like this, and I, like Glenn Black, riddled with ADHD. Like it's like, anyway, fun fact. So let's watch the end of this. And then I talk about this at the end, but there's another, I did an interview with the founder and CEO of the Conservatoire, 27 years old. And when I realized after the fact that I was interviewing someone which was 1 year older than my oldest son, I was like, damn, I'm getting old. But really sweet girl, Jamie. So that I've got to edit and can't wait to put that out. And then I talked to two great attorneys with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty about very important cases that are going to the Supreme Court, which will change everything as far as sex-separated sports and sex-separated spaces. So these are important things to have in our radar, and they've got a toolkit, all that good stuff. So that's coming up, but we have our Moms for Liberty Summit, and I'm swamped with that. It's, so if anything, if you want to come to the Moms for Liberty Summit, something very different is that I am doing social media, and I am a little quirky and doing things differently. So there will be something different. There's, I'm trying to, there's some new things, and it's in Orlando, and I'm going to tell you the resort it's at is phenomenal. It's so cool. It's, what's really cool about it is it's huge, the Gaylord, and you don't have to go outside in the humid air. And when you're Puerto Rican like me, so my hair doesn't have to get frizzy like this when I go outside. It's like glass everywhere, so you can feel like you're outside without the humid air that makes my hair look like, you know, Shakira, who's beautiful. But so my hair doesn't go like crazy, and I don't feel all sticky, but it's still really pretty. And the water park is amazing. My 2-year-old Jackson, when he came with this summer when we went to look at it, and like could not pull him away from that water park. Like loved it. Really pretty, really fun, really good restaurants too. So if you haven't bought a ticket to the summit, you should. And if you live around the area and you're conservative, where it's in Florida, so like, hello, my daughter lives there, lots of conservatives. Come, buy your ticket. It's worth it. It's fun. And I'll see you there to meet me in person. So, wait, I should probably put this up. Oh, yeah, if you're interested in the Joyful Warrior Summit, really easy. And we've just announced James O'Keefe today, and Corey will be there, and there's so many. I know we'll announce the big names, but there's so many other people there that do policy work. And in my opinion, the best breakout sessions and the best speaking sessions are with the people that like do so much. Like they're smart, they know the work, you learn so much. So we've got a long list of people that are coming. Sarah Parshall Perry, who I love. We've got Benny Johnson, who the last time I saw him was in Wisconsin with Turning Point, when he was there with Charlie Kirk at the convention, and he's great. And there's Adam Coleman, my friend, who's really sweet, awesome. I just put his out today. And we've got from Southeastern Legal Foundation. Oh my God. I'll see. I'm leaving people out. James Lindsay, my buddy, I've known him for years. He's awesome. He'll be there. We've got Byron Donalds, and then we've got Erica Donalds, and then we've got the Lieutenant Governor of Florida. We've got Florida Congressman, we've got Florida Senator, we've got the right now CEO of the Children's Defense Fund, and the co-founder of that was Robert Kennedy Jr. There's going to be a lot of we're going to have Maha, everything. It's going to be really cool. And we're still putting things together. Still hope there's still some speakers that we're hoping. So all good. It's a fun time. And frankly, the best part about it is hanging out with your people. You're hanging out with your people. And it's really fun to be with like-minded in this fun, kind of joyful setting and making new friends. And every year, I'm so happy. I cry when it's over. It's like you have to say goodbye to all your sisters. So I can't recommend it highly enough. You're missing out if you don't come. Try to do it. All right, I'm out. Well, not technically out. You're going to see me from a week ago. Right now. Yesterday, we're the worst in America's history. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that charter schools avoided this drop. And so more choice, more charter schools, more homeschooling, more options while we work on improving public education. I have kids in public school. I have kids in private school. I have kids in college. I have kids in post-secondary education, all run the gamut. And so I am supportive of a healthy and vibrant public education. But what we have now is sick. It's sick. It's broken. It's on life support. The life support is money and teachers unions, the money that we continue to funnel in. And so we've got to make some big changes, and we can't keep funding these failure factories, as Corey calls them. Wisconsin, where I live, literally the worst at educating Black students. And there's a governor's race, and the Democrats are going to run on education. Believe it or not, despite all of this, they're going to run on education, and we cannot let them be successful, and that we have to keep shining the spotlight of truth. When governors like Governor Tony Evers are going to reject these tax credits, they're going to not opt into a program that would be so beneficial for Wisconsin families, that would give them money to tutoring, books, to attend a school, have their child attend a school of their choice, to withhold that. Somebody who is always begging for money, who is always saying, always, he and our Wisconsin Department of Instruction State Superintendent Jill Underley, I think asking for money is like saying hi to most people. We need more money, give me more money, except for this. They don't want more money if it means that it loosens the shackles of constituents to public education, because it's become a money laundering scheme, just as Corey said. Our schools aren't failing by accident. They've been hijacked. Instead of teaching math and reading, unions are pushing woke Marxism, equity politics, and teaching kindergartners about pronouns. And the result is the worst report. Our schools just like I said right here, editing not so good. So I'm repeating myself, I think, right here. Full disclosure. So I'm cringing right now watching this, but now you have to cringe with me. Our schools aren't failing by accident. That's true. It's a feature, not a bug. And that's really sad to say. They've been hijacked. Instead of teaching math and science and reading, they're teaching gender identity and pronouns. They're teaching race Marxism. They are teaching equity politics. They're teaching kindergartners about pronouns. They're too busy fighting to put some boy in your 8th grade girl's bathroom to care about whether the 8th grade students can read at grade level or they are going to be adequately prepared for high school. They don't care about those things anymore. Too few do. And the teachers that do care, the majority of teachers that do care, feel helpless and stuck in this system. And they're also quitting, and not because of people like me or Corey. They're quitting because the schools aren't safe. They're not safe. They're physically not safe. And they also have no tools in their toolbox to deal with students that act up in class. They're not learning environments anymore. And when you can't even get agreement on whether or not to take cell phones out of the hands of kids so that they can pay attention in school, well, the results are in, as we've talked about. The NAEP scores, the nation's report card shows that this is the worst in 30 years. 80% of seniors can't do math. A third can't read. 80% of high school seniors can't do math at grade level, and they cannot read. They cannot read at grade level. This isn't education, it's indoctrination. And Moms for Liberty, we say enough. Fund students, not systems. We have to take our schools back. These NAEP scores are nothing short of catastrophic, just catastrophic. They prove what moms like me were screaming from the rooftops during COVID, prove that we were right. Shutting down schools and letting union bosses call all the shots was just a way to destroy our kids, and the education system is just that last nail in the coffin, I think. And the reality is that when 80% of our 12th graders aren't proficient in math, that's an F. That's a failing grade. It's you know, they will march in the streets for equity and gender politics, but they won't fight to be sure that our kids can do fractions and multiply and read. Now, half of America's seniors are walking across the graduation stage, and they're not prepared to work. They're not prepared for college. They're not prepared for life. This is the bitter fruit of a system run by Randi Weingarten. I'm going to say that again. This is the bitter fruit of a system run by union bosses like Randi Weingarten. This is the bitter fruit of systems run by organizations like the NEA, which have a federal charter, and they should not. For us, it's about our kids and our priorities. For them, it's about money, power, and politics. And the system is prioritizing social experiments over math and phonics, identity politics over science, and union power over parents. And that's why Moms for Liberty is standing shoulder to shoulder with parents to say, enough, enough. Fund students, not systems. Put parents back in charge. And yes, we're working with Congress on the NEA Charter Repeal Act, and we can finally hold these unions accountable for the damage that they've done. 20, 24,000, 30,000 spent per kid on public education. And if you've got a kid in private school, you're paying twice, And what are you getting for it? What good is it doing our children, our families, our society, our civilization? We've got to answer some tough questions and keep fighting and support the Trump administration as they stand against this entrenched system. Deepest of the deep state politics is in education. It is entrenched. and they're going to fight for their political life. And we've got to truly, if we want to remove politics from education, it starts with dealing with the problem of teachers' unions. We have to face it head on. We can't be intimidated into silence. We can't be cowed and told, oh, you hate teachers. It's not true. These unions don't love teachers. They only love power and activists, activist teachers. They want to parade on stage people that will meow and talk about their fur families. People that say that they see it as a political calling to teach. People that say, don't bother me about literacy. Don't bug me to teach kids to read and do math. We got to get busy on taking down President Trump. That's our priority. And a question that I forgot to ask Corey, but I wanted him to go through on his interview with Jordan Peterson. He talked about a study that showed that 36% of high school students said that at least once a day they heard a teacher disparage the United States of America. At least once a day they would hear a teacher or administrator, someone in school, say that America is essentially a racist country. Every day, there's some sort of political message being sent to our kids. We cannot continue to tolerate these woke indoctrination failure factories. We can't fund them. We can't tolerate it. I know it's hard to stay active in school board politics and stay active in your local community, can feel very burned out at times, but that's why you should come to the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warriors Summit, where you can get energized and reactivated and listen to a whole bunch of great speakers across the spectrum. We'll have speakers we have people there that are a little more distrustful of school choice. We have people like Corey that are all on board with school choice. But the one thing that we all have in common is we care about kids and we're looking for solutions. We have to be open to hearing everyone's ideas and solutions and understanding, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. We need to, we need an off-ramp, and we need to build bridges and make that off-ramp, not find it, make it. And I am so confident that, and so hopeful that we will. This is a long one. This is a long one, hour and a half. Always think, oh, I'm going to get under an hour, and then just don't work out. But that's okay, because we had a lot to say. Remember, Corey wrote The Parent Revolution, a book that President Trump said was a great guide to help moms and dads take back control of their children's education from radical Marxists ruining our schools. So that's quite an endorsement. And Corey has recently written this article that you can find on his X page, and I will post that in a minute. And that Corey will be a speaker at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior National Summit, October 16th through the 18th. And as I end, my outro will be about the summit, as it always is. We have so many more speakers to announce. As soon as I'm done with this, I have to get to posting. There's a lot of surprises. You're going to love it. It's going to be jam-packed. It's going to be awesome. Awesome. Joining me. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on Moms for Liberty Unplugged. Look forward to, again, thanks everyone for joining me on Moms for Liberty Unplugged.
Sorry.
My next episode is going to be with Corey Brewer and Luke Berg, and we're going to discuss some legal issues regarding education. You don't want to miss that. It's always great. And Luke is right now arguing several important cases, and Corey is going to discuss a parental rights toolkit, and a toolkit that can be used by parents, can be used by school board members, anyone. They've worked on this a very long time. It's great. And it's always great to talk with my friends from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. So I look forward to that. And I'll be recording that tomorrow and putting that out real soon. Oh my gosh, embarrassing. Sorry, guys. I thought I edited this. My next episode is going to be with my, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And my next okay, sorry. Like, this is embarrassing. Thought I edited this better, but did not. So me doing a few takes, but what the heck. My next episode of Unplugged is going to be with Corey Brewer and Luke Berg from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. And we're going to discuss legal. Episode of Unplugged is going to be but they are overrepresented in education. So even though 80% plus of normal people that are going about their life don't want to have a boy in a girl's locker room, when you're talking about a school district like in California, unfortunately, 80% do. Again, the woke craziness is overrepresented in education. This is the space in which we live. And that's why if you think it's not happening to my kid, you are wrong. They're just not telling you, or you're not asking the right questions. It is happening to your kid at some level, maybe not some insane level where they're putting a boy in a bathroom, but they're talking about it. They're talking about gender identity. They're slipping this in. It's in, the calls coming from inside the house. It's just in the well of this system. And so we have just begun to fight back, and there's a lot of wins, a lot to be excited about, but there's a lot more battles ahead. And so it's great to talk to my friends from Will, because they give it straight. They'll tell you, hey, things like Mahmoud v. Taylor, a lot of parents think, oh, win, win, win. Except for, as I just showed, in Ohio. And that's a red state. If that's what they're doing in a red state, can you imagine Chicago, California, Oregon, New York, New Jersey? So all over. So the law is on our side, but we have to be vigilant, and we have to be ever present and exposing, so that the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Education, the Department of Justice can continue to work and continue to fight and continue to take action. But all of this will take a long time. These cases take a long time. The process isn't fast, it's slow. So in the meantime, we have to do our part. And if you're not a member of Moms for Liberty, you should be, and you should join us. And I'm going to put that in there. Learn more about Moms for Liberty, go to momsforliberty.org, and that is where you can also sign. You want to become a member? Hey, at least please sign our sign. To fight and continue to take action. But all of this will take a long time. These cases take a long time. The process isn't fast, it's slow. So in the meantime, we have to do our part. And if you're not a member of Moms for Liberty, you should be, and you should join us. And I'm going to put that in there. Learn more about Moms for Liberty, go to momsforliberty.org, and that is where you can also sign. You want to become a member? Hey, at least please sign our sign. Oh my gosh, here we go again. Here we go. Just for a little hotel in Orlando, Florida. You can see right here, register now. And again, Corey. Be sure to follow Corey as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day and see you next time. Bye. So again, hold on just a second. I so appreciate everyone sitting through. Like, I needed to get we recorded this a week ago today, September, and over a week today, and it was supposed to be aired the same day, and then Charlie was shot. So this kind of just obviously went to the side. I was going to edit it more, but just wanted to make sure we got this great episode out. And I'm really glad we did. We have like 30,000 live views right now. That's amazing. That's amazing. Like the little engine that could, the little podcast that could. So I think to be honest, like just being real, like I'll get better at the whole editing thing. I'm an overachiever, like, so keep learning. I'll keep getting better. Maybe one day I'll have someone who does this stuff for me because I'm so techie. But for now, gotta learn how to do things myself. So I loved that whole interview. It was great. And I'm just like blown away how relevant all of this is right now. It's a God wink because so important that we get a handle on what's happening in education. So important that like everything we're seeing right now, that what's happening, the educators, in these certain fields, the insanity is overrepresented in these certain fields. And so that tells us something, that tells us that, all right, we really have to safeguard our kids here, because a certain type of person is going into education and we're dropping our kids off. We're like entrusting our kids. And you know what happens? You pick them up. How was your day? It's fine. It's fine. Did you do anything? No. You have to really like dig and find ways to find like, and it's harder to go through their homework. Oh, I'm getting tired. Oh, sorry. When it's all Google Chrome. It was a lot easier when my older kids were younger. I was thinking, I can't tell you how many projects they did. How many, just these big projects that we used to do with clay and make scenes and big, none of that anymore. None of that. There's no big project that they have to work on. They said, oh, well, we found out the parents were helping too much. Well, it was a great thing for the parents and the kids to have this project to bond over and to do. And just so different. Not in a good way either. Kids don't have enough homework. Oh, we don't want to do homework. It's like, I think that they don't want us to see what our kids don't know. They don't want us to watch our kids write the worst paragraph of like see Dick run. Like, what the heck? That's not a paragraph. That's like a few like 4-word sentences. Where's your thesis? Where's the paper? Why can't you write cursive? Why can't you spell? Those are the questions they don't want us asking. And it's kind of nice because the homework it kind of sucked. But it's not a good thing. Not a good thing that we don't know. So you have to ask a lot more questions. Oh, I'm getting tired. Oh. So that whole last part was definitely like a struggle. All right, this is the end. For real. Mama is going to, actually, I'm going to probably have a small glass of wine and some dessert and watch news. I should watch something nicer. Maybe I'll watch an old TV show because there's, God forbid, there's like nothing to watch on TV that's new. There's a few things. There's a few things I like. The Offer was really good. Now that's not for kids, but it was good. It's really good. Oh, it's getting late for me. Sorry. All right. Have a good night. Sayonara.
Elena, what state are you from?
New York.
Hawaii.
I'm from Texas, Washington. I have my kids actually with me to do the march.
Wherever I go, odds are there is a Moms for Liberty group or a whole tribe in the room sounding off loud and proud.
And you could see the passion here because it's about supporting kids.
Pledge to each other that we will live like men and women who are determined to remain free.
I'm for parental rights all the way.